Welcome. Welcome to TeaTime. It's a big TeaTime. It's TeaTime of the Obscure. Secrets of the Obscure TeaTime.
Man, ArenaNet are unhinged.
Oh.
I was not expecting to wake up to... Like, I thought this was just going to be the teaser trailer, and then that was going to be it, and we'd go radio silent for like 2 more months. But I was not expecting the amount of info that they would release about this expansion all in one go.
Hello, it is I. I have just clicked the boost, and the game is telling me to venture into, what is this, the Bastion of the Penitent? Ah, yes, I, the hero of Tyria, will enter.
We are. I mean,
we got to do combat.
Talked about, yeah, the combat stuff. Let's go.
Yeah.
The juice.
Oh, yeah.
This is where the flame might actually happen.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, you're about to activate, Nike? You're about to
Perhaps.
pop off?
Oh,
It's
nice.
TeaTime.
Oh.
We are live. Yeah, I had to go live. They were completely out of control, by the way, guys. They started talking about everything. They were just doing the entire show. Not my fault, actually. It was entirely on them. Actually, it was Bloom's fault, especially him. But anyway, welcome. Welcome to TeaTime. It's a big TeaTime. It's TeaTime of the Obscure. Secrets of the Obscure TeaTime. Wizard Tower expansion, which, by the way, of course, is actually in reference to the new Fire Wizard build that is coming out with the, the expansion, the weapon changes. They're really actually helping out with that. But anyway, welcome to the show, everyone. We've got a lot to talk about here. We're going to be talking about everything about the upcoming Secrets of the Obscure Guild Wars 2 expansion. August, coming very, very shortly, in fact. Okay, didn't see that one coming, but here to break it all down. Okay, we have Emmy actually is here, but she's lost her voice and cannot talk. Okay, so, if you hear like some kind of hoarse croakings in the background, that's Emmy. But in addition to that, we've got Bloom, we've got Nike, and we have Emergency Sneb, okay, who's just coming at the last second to save the day so that our overlay is symmetrical. But welcome to the show, everyone. And, I mean, we've got a Guild Wars 2 expansion coming up. That's the big stuff.
We do.
We absolutely do. And just to kind of set the tone, I will say where I'm at, and then I'll open it up to the panel here. I was actually a little bit like, ooh, is it going to be good? Is it going to be a complete failure? I'm not actually totally sure. This is a bit, I don't know what's going to happen. But I've got to say, I think that what they've shown so far and the ideas they've been talking about, I'm feeling extremely positive, actually, about the expansion. It feels like they're focusing on content. They're focusing on rewarding gameplay, right? Adding features that are meaningful and not just kind of fluff, so like some of the stuff we saw in End of Dragons. I love the transparency. I think they've done a good job kind of replacing elite specializations just across the board. Yeah, I'm feeling very positive, actually, regarding the expansion and what we've seen so far. I think that's echoed in the community a little bit, but what do you guys think? Like, is anyone dooming here, or are we all feeling good?
I was very excited when I saw kind of the theme. Because we've done dragons for so long, it was kind of getting old, So we needed to move on. And I think you and I had talked, or maybe it was on TeaTime, maybe it was just on stream one time. We had spoken about how it was a bit of a risk, whatever they're going to do next. If they went away from something that people were really familiar with, they're going to have to really reintroduce the story and create a lot of excitement. And so I kept thinking, well, what could they possibly go to that would be similar, right? We already did Cantha, we've done Alona, like what's next? And going to the little hidden castle in the sky, I think is actually a really good move because there's a lot of mystery. A lot of people have always speculated about that. So it's something that people understand and can kind of attach to. But there's a lot of space to work with there. And so I saw that and I thought, oh yeah, the lore people will probably enjoy that. And then some of the gameplay features I think are really exciting, particularly sort of releasing weapons and making weapons just completely crazy on all classes. I think it's going to be really exciting for a wide variety of players. And I think that's really what they're going for too.
Yeah.
Nice.
What do you think, Bloom?
Man, ArenaNet are unhinged.
Oh.
I was not expecting to wake up to... Like, I thought this was just going to be the teaser trailer, and then that was going to be it, and we'd go radio silent for like 2 more months. But I was not expecting the amount of info that they would release about this expansion all in one go. I will say, a bit disappointing that none of that was like in the trailer, but I'm sure they'll have some like mass market trailer eventually. At first, I was just absolutely giga hyped when I was reading through all the stuff that they were introducing. It has like totally turned around my perspective on ArenaNet after Gala Delve. I do have some concerns though, which I'm sure we'll talk about in terms of like content. This is a very systems heavy expansion. It seems like a lot of changes that look to sort of improve Guild Wars 2 way longer term than the short term. So I'm interested to see how that pans out. I do think they have a really uphill battle when it comes to this expansion. It is going to be smaller than what we've had with Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, End of Dragons, in terms of content, like less maps, less strikes. I just hope that they can fill it out enough with hopefully just enough writing, like enough story in there across those two maps. And it's not literally just half like an End of Dragons expansion. So we'll see how that pans out. But I'm feeling very optimistic. Right? All the stuff sounds really, really awesome. Yeah.
I think one thing to keep in mind is that this is going to be every year. So this,
yes.
I think it will definitely feel relatively content-light compared to a standard Guild Wars 2 expansion. But I think it's really worth noting that they'll be releasing something similar to this every year. They've already kind of laid it out. Right? There'll be 3 quarterly updates that will contain stuff like the legendary armor and even extra weapons. Right? They're just bringing in like new weapons, which is actually that's almost like unprecedented. Right? We've only ever had combat changes with an expansion. There's going to be combat changes outside of an expansion, which is honestly really exciting, actually. To see in the future. So yeah, if you're a Elementalist pistol fan, enjoy that. Okay, no longbow for you guys.
Double pistol guardian, let's go.
True. Actually,
as hell.
Yeah, shortbow engineer. Shortbow engineer. Yeah, weird, crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I know this is going to sound a little bit of a weird thing to say, but I almost feel like we won't actually get a full feel for how Guild Wars 2 is going to be until we get the almost like a full cycle, right? So the next expansion, because we've always had this drop an expansion and then there's big bursts of content, then you get Living World. And now it's going to be changing to there's going to be smaller amounts of content, but more frequently, which will add up to, I mean, realistically, it's going to be more content. Bear in mind, guys, I know this is a bit of a meme, but it's two strikes a year and 1 fractal a year. That is a lot more than we're actually used to, if you think about it. Like, we've been getting, I mean, there hasn't been a raid wing for what, 4 years? And there hasn't been a fractal for 3 years, I believe. Of course, until the recent Silent Surf release came with the most recent patch, of course. Honestly, that's something interesting to talk about later, actually. But yeah, I think we're going to end up with quite a lot of more consistent content than we've had previously. And I think to really get a good feel for that, we are going to have to wait a little bit longer. I know that, you know, whenever this conversation is like, oh, we've got to wait until they get their systems going. But I think in this case, it actually is justified to talk about that from a consumer perspective, because we need to have that experience of what is that like when you have an expansion, then quarterly updates, then another expansion immediately. And I think it really will, it will kind of like fly by. I think it could actually be pretty exciting, to be honest, with how this is actually going to go. I'm very optimistic when it comes to the content release schedule of the expansions. I think it is a really good point that you brought up about systems as well, Bloom, actually, because they are really looking to fix some of the pain points about the game. They're giving players direction with this new, I mean, look, you wanted a battle pass, right? You got a free one. This kind of battle pass style system that gives players direction and tells them to play content, right? And rewards them with in-game mount skins, by the way. Ooh, that's fun.
Yes.
And stuff from the gem store, really cool. And, you know, they're looking to, you know, just address some of the issues in the game, right? Like, and adding open world legendary armor, for example, is like another like a big pain point, I would say, with the game. So a lot of fixes for sure, but I think that's a good approach, because ultimately I think we could broadly agree that Guild Wars 2 is a good game. We just want more, right? Like, and to kind of iterate on what's already here, right? The game is good, right? And if they keep building upon the systems that exist and building upon the content that exists, that's a recipe for success, because ultimately I think the game, it really does shine on the bones, the foundation of the game, right? You know, the combat system, the horizontal progression systems, like the freedom the game offers you, stuff like mounts, right? Although Skyscale might be a bit overpowered, but we'll see about that later. But yeah, I think it's pretty good.
I mean, one thing real quick is this is probably the first time I've been excited, not just for the expansion launch, but we know what's going to be coming in subsequent patches. We know that we're getting like the new weapons for each class. We know we're going to get new relics, that sort of thing. So this is the first time that I've been excited for the post-patch content as well. Because before, we'd get Path of Fire and we'd have no idea what's coming after Path of Fire or End of Dragons or Heart of Thorns, really. So this is the first time I've been excited, basically for the whole rest of the year and up until the next expansion for Guild Wars 2, rather than just the expansion launch and then not knowing what's coming next.
Yeah. What do you think of Nike? I want to bring Nike into the mix.
Well,
I want to get him in here.
I do have to say that the announcement far exceeded my expectations. I thought if you had asked me in a candid moment what I thought the limit of what ArenaNet could do in an expansion was, I would have said probably EOD, and I don't say that positively. I think EOD had a rushed vibe to it, unpolished vibe. It had features that weren't the most inspiring, most dazzling set of features and rewards that could ever be imagined. But this expansion appears to be significantly higher concept in terms of like knocking it out of the park and like digesting what the community wants. And in fact, it's so good, now I'm worried about the next expansion. Because I feel like they made a whiteboard with all their ideas for expansion features and ranked them, like a tier list. And they took all the S tier ideas and put it into this expansion, which means what's next? Are we gonna get new S tier expansions, or are we gonna get features, or are we gonna get like the B tier features that were left on the cutting room floor of this expansion? Like, I'm genuinely worried. Like, okay, legendary armor for open world, that's something that people have definitely wanted, and it's fucking awesome, and it's obsidian armor, and it appears we're going to the Fissure of Woe in some form or another, which is fucking awesome. But, okay, so what are you going to top that with next expansion? What's cooler than obsidian armor and the Fissure of Woe?
It's tough. I think they had to come out swinging though, right? They had to, because I think there's a huge amount of uncertainty. I think that's why they were so transparent with the information as well, because I think ArenaNet were actually very clever on this. And usually I feel like they're not that good at this, right, with the communication angle. But they knew that people were not sure about this. They knew that they were going to have to really deliver. No elite specs. It's a smaller expansion. They were very intelligent with, right, we need to tell them everything, right? We need to be 100% honest and really try and deliver as well as we possibly can. This is an important turning point in the game.
It's like a one-night stand where you have to be impressive. So you bring your A game and you use all your good moves on the first night. As opposed to when you're looking at a long-term thing, you want to you don't want to use all your moves in the first time. You want to
spread it out over time.
You want to build up. You want each subsequent encounter to be slightly better.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I mean that is something. But yeah, I mean it's a good point about the next expansion, because of course I think they are trying to avoid bloat, but I think they are perhaps attempting to develop some systems that they can kind of then iterate on forwards. For example, this Wizard Vault, and I suppose we should explain what it is, right? It's essentially, in my mind, it appears to be a return of a monthly style system or a quarterly reward track style system, where you can complete a bunch of activities. I imagine, almost anything in the game, right? And this will give you a currency that you can then turn in for a variety of rewards, including like legendary crafting materials, gold, even stuff from the gem store, right? And exclusive stuff to the Wizard's Vault. It's essentially like, people don't like calling it a battle pass, but I guess more accurately, you'd call it a season pass, right? Everyone knows what we mean when we say this. Like, it's basically what it is. It's a battle pass without any of the bullshit, which I'm actually really happy about, because of course it's free, gamers. So don't worry, you're not paying for it. But it does. You can pick the rewards in any order you want. You don't have to go through a progression. You're not getting any junk. Basically, it's essentially that the classic ArenaNet. They took this idea that I think players do enjoy. It gives players direction, and it gives players something they can go after and stuff to chase and do in game, and rewards players for simply just their going about their business and enjoying the game. But it's all of the stupid stuff that makes battle passes suck removed out of it. It's the classic ArenaNet move right there.
Do you think they're going to do stuff like one of the pips on the reward track is going to be do map completion? Is it going to be do all the story steps, then do all the map completion, and then do the new strike in normal mode? You know, I mean, because that could be controversial if you like are required to do the strike in normal mode to like get all the rewards for the extract.
I think it's gonna be way more open than that. I'm pretty sure that you can do anything to progress it. So yeah, you can definitely.
That's boring.
I reckon
it's not
you'll
guided content then.
Well, no, it will probably be it will give you like a selection of activities, but I don't think you have to do all of them. You can, you know, maybe it will give you some PvP stuff that you can do or some world versus world, but I don't think you have to if you don't want to, right?
I have a thought. I think it will be similar to the Return to achievements where I don't think you have to do all of them. So you could omit something that you hated or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But it gave you a bunch of options with the achievements to max it out. So I would imagine that there'll be like 30 different things that you can do, but you only need to do 25 or 20 of them in order to get the max rewards. Then everything after that is just like a small bonus that's kind of inconsequential.
To clarify as well, it's you do these achievements and you get a currency that you use at a vendor to buy stuff, which means that it's non-linear as opposed to like a battle pass where all the cool stuff is at like level 93 and you've just got to grind and grind and grind to get to that like new shoulder piece or whatever. It means that you actually have choice in what you want to claim with your like points or whatever, which is excellent. I mean, this is the best possible scenario. I actually thought, I was blown away that it was going to be like a free thing because World of Warcraft recently introduced a similar thing with their trading post thing. But cynically, that is also just an incentive to keep your subscription ticking because you can't log in and claim any of that unless you've got the sub fee. So not in my wildest dreams did I think that ArenaNet would do the same thing in Guild Wars 2 and even more consumer friendly. You don't have to pay anything for this thing, which is just like blown my mind. Even if you had to have paid something, I probably would have been okay with it. So it's crazy that it's just free. But I love the amount of player choice and agency that we have with this new system. I like that it's not just a linear pass. You can just get specifically what you want. Perfect. Really good.
And I very much think you brought up the return to achievement stuff. I think that's actually what they're kind of going for here. I imagine they're going to have it rotate pretty frequently, and I think they're looking to kind of create these hype moments, right? Where they're like, oh, look, everyone's going to go and do this right now. Like, everyone's going to go and do this particular activity, right? Like, imagine if it says, hey, you know, you've got to go do a strike mission. Well, then, or, you know, everyone's going to zerg that down, or you've got to go do this particular open world map, right? And everyone's going to blast this. It kind of a little bit reminiscent of the boss rush events and the fractal rush events. I think that stuff is really cool. You know, I think a big part of an MMO is, you know, having loads of people around you kind of all working on stuff. So I think this system has a huge amount of potential to direct the flow of players around the world and keep things really varied, actually, because they can just say do anything. They could make you go and do anything. They've kind of hinted at this with one of the other features of the expansion, the new mastery, where you have to go around closing the rifts. There's going to be like these rifts of demons emerging into the world, and you must close them. You must venture in. You must venture forth. I think that's also a really
reminds
cool
me of
idea.
Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls game, where you like went around closing rifts and you got good loot from that.
Yeah.
I wonder how much the rift system I really want to hear about, because it could be like they looked at bounties and said, "Ooh, yeah, this system did not work." But now if rifts are like their iteration on bounties, then it could be awesome. If they've like looked at bounties, learned their lesson, and then implemented it on rifts, that's what I hope for. And maybe instead of a boss fight with like random cancer mechanics, it's like, you know, somewhat more interesting than that. I don't know. We can hope.
Yeah, we can indeed hope. It's interesting, very interesting to see. In fact, and I think
I just thought of.
Oh yeah, what do you think of?
Right. I thought of how with a lot of the old content, like the season 3 and 4 stuff, some of the maps are very dead. And you mentioned before how we really want to feel that, like, hey, people are around us, we're doing this thing together, we're achieving this common goal, and we're getting rewarded for it. And one of the issues that some of the older maps have had in the past, especially prior to the return to achievements, is that just no one was there. So there would be certain achievements that would be particularly difficult to do because you'd have to sort of rally the troops because not everyone had a common goal. Everyone had already or the community had kind of been like, hey, we already did that thing, now we're gone. And so they put dailies in to try to counter that, right? They go, okay, well, now there's a daily. And so you'll often find that content creators will say, okay, well, if you're struggling to do this thing, just go and do it when it's the daily. Well, if now there's an incentive to go and do or visit maps of older content and go and do certain things or participate in new content or whatever, and suddenly everyone's just being directed all around there, that's going to have all of the benefits that those dailies have with few of the downsides. It's just going to churn people in to this map and then move them over here and push them over there. And I think that's a really positive way to go about handling what is actually a fairly big problem that often isn't spoken about in the game. People are way spread out and people get really confused about what their goals should be. It's really unclear. And if there's something in the game that says, hey, go do this thing, everyone else is doing it, then they're going to do it. Like the World Boss Rush, like the Fractal Rush. When something's in your face and it's like, this is the thing, everyone's going to start doing it. And I think that'll create a lot better social parts. It'll create better social aspects within the game. Because right now, I can't even tell you how many people I see on the forums, on Reddit, on Twitter, wherever, they go, I don't know how to get into X content, or I have no idea how to find a guild or whatever. And it's just because they don't see anyone around them, right? Like they just don't. And so pushing people into specific parts of the content is a great way to revitalize a lot of social aspects as well.
Here's the thing. I really do hope that I hope it doesn't work exactly like the current daily system, where it is just sort of like
loot.
Where you just farm these materials.
I would much rather be a checklist.
It's better because of the currency. That's the defining aspect. It reminds me kind of the Z missions in Guild Wars 1, right? Where the Z missions were all old content and stuff, or just go redo this Vanquish or redo this mission with the bonus. And that was great, but the reason people did it is because there was a brand new currency that allowed you to get new and exclusive, at least somewhat exclusive rewards, right? Like the heavy equipment pack at the time. Everyone was rushing to do these daily missions and going and doing all of this content because it made sense for them to do so because there was something unique about it. And as a result, people who were maybe a little bit far behind, maybe they hadn't done some of that content, they were able to go and get it done because all of these veterans wanted to do it too because they got special rewards for it. And so I know I'm the guy who always talks about how important it is to mix skill levels and mix knowledge so that people can share knowledge. This is a perfect way to do it. The veteran players and the new players alike can go, and they're both going to have the same goals.
I'm excited. One thing I will say is I really hope ArenaNet have the balls to put strikes and raids and stuff into this thing as like achievements that you've almost got to do.
Not
like maybe
raids.
you don't actually have to. No, I'm saying
Not
you
happening.
put raids in there.
no
I know it goes against. I know it goes against everything ArenaNet stands for. They don't want to make you do the hard content. But man, I really hope they do. They push like instance content, because I have no problem joining meta events and like world bosses or whatever right now in the game. I have trouble with, well, I mean, I specifically don't have trouble, but like newer players and like newer players to Guild Wars have trouble joining strikes, raids, because there's not enough in the LFG or whatever. I hope that they put that sort of thing in there. Maybe not even as like the quarterlies, not even as the quarterlies, like a thing you have to do, but if they chucked it in the dailies, so like once every week, there's just one of those achievements is like do this raid, just one day out of 7 days. That would be nice.
I've gone super dark Sneb on this. I just don't think they can. The reason I don't think they can is because they don't have systems in place that make it leader friendly. They don't make it so that expectations are aligned. And if suddenly you just said, "Hey, everybody, this is a daily," you'd have like, "Hello, it is I have just clicked the boost, and the game is telling me to venture into what is this? The Bastion of the Penitent." Ah, yes, I, the hero of Tyria, will enter. They just have no build. They don't know anything about the game. And it's going to create a lot of frustration for them as they go and just get smushed, right? You don't want to create an experience where a player is unprepared. You want to set them up for success. And likewise, you also don't want people who have like a leader tag to have no idea if that player is joining them or not. And so I think it would just create a lot of mismatched expectations, a lot of frustration among veteran and new players. I think that before they do something like that, they need to really reassess LFG works and how leadership has control, or what the tag stands for, how you obtain the tag. I just think there's a lot more steps before that really makes sense, unfortunately.
I mean, I think the cool thing is, if they did a patch, like, you know how they did the emboldened mode patch, I think it'd be cool if those patches were the time where, like, okay, so we've done a big raid rework, we've changed how the commander tag works, we've added this new mode, and now for this week, the Wizards Vault achievements are raid related. And everyone jumps in and tries the new systems and that sort of thing. I think it's a great way for them to like direct players to trying out the new
I think there's
updates.
some scope in strike missions. I think raids are really tricky because strike mission on normal mode can 100% work. Like maybe you could do it for emboldened, but it would have to be like only on an emboldened week and honestly only on the easy wings. Like there's no, otherwise it just wouldn't work, right? It would just. It just would implode, I think, at that point. But I do think it's a good idea, though, because, yeah, I'm actually very much in agreement with you, Bloom, here, actually. The biggest issue with any kind of instance content in Guild Wars 2, and to be frank, non-open world game modes, is there are not enough new people, right? There are actually, the population, I mean, it's not high in raids and strikes, but the issue is that there are too many people who have been there, done that, and no new people joining the game mode, right? That is the issue. So any kind of system that directs new players towards that to try it out, I think is going to be really successful. And hey, honestly, there's a little secret here. Releasing content really helps with that. And hopefully the fact that they're going to be releasing, you know, a fractal every year, strike missions every year, that will really help out with that, to be honest, I think, which is pretty cool stuff.
Well, there's the biggest feature in the X-Pack that we haven't even talked about yet.
Oh, yeah?
And that would be the Skyscale that is being given away for free when you log in.
Disgrace. Disgrace.
It's like ArenaNet watches TeaTime and listens to my amazing takes and is like, clearly these are the business decisions we need to be pursuing. They saw my video, 5 worst business decisions ArenaNet ever made. They are rectifying them. You can spam your egos in the chat because I am 100% taking credit for the Skyscale being a dead giveaway in this expansion.
Honestly, I think Grouch played through WoW Dragonflight and thought, wow, there's some pretty good stuff in here. Like they took the Skyscale. I think we're gonna have some revenge. But yeah,
I'm so interested to know if this expansion, if a bunch of these features were in response to Dragonflight or not, because there are a lot of coincidences, like the Skyscale thing. The Skyscale is now being able to use updrafts and ley lines, very Dragonflighty, and I'm wondering if it was in response, or if they were just so proactive that they were already on it before Dragonflight.
I know this is an illegal move, but seriously, the way that the dragon riding is implemented in Dragonflight is honestly very solid. Like, you know, they can't quite do as much with their engine because it's, you know, it's the WoW engine, not the Guild Wars 2 engine. But it's honestly, it's really well done. Yeah, like the way it's actually, the overall implementation is excellent, right? Like the races are actually really cool. And yeah, you're absolutely right. You do kind of see a bit of inspiration there, perhaps, actually, with the way that it's going to be working. But yeah, I think giving it, definitely giving it pretty early on is a very good idea. And by the way, guys, it is not a bad thing to look at other products and go, "Ooh, that's a pretty good idea," right? You know, look. Would you say that about content, guys? And it's like, oh, we should release content. What a good idea. Or like, oh, we should put mount skins in the game for rewards instead of in the cash shop. What a good idea. Yeah, like, of course, these are things that other games do. Like, you know, and ultimately, other games always borrow ideas from each other and like, oh, we'll do it a little bit better. Oh, this is our take on this mechanic, right? So I think it's a good thing, actually, that ArenaNet is maybe looking outwards a little bit instead of simply reinventing the wheel 17 times in a row, right? Like, I think this is good. With the direction they're going here. But the Skyscale, huh? It's going to be pretty OP. I think it's going to be insanely overpowered, actually.
Especially if you already had the Skyscale and you get access to the Super Mastery, it's going to be pretty busted. Yeah.
Because you're going to be able to mount in combat. And did you see this? This was in the what was it? The Massively OP article. This sounds... I can't wait to see the implementation of this. You're going to be able to create updrafts and ley lines.
Whoa, that will be really fun.
It's going to be really fun to like navigate around, and you're going to be able to mount in combat, and you're able to ride along the ley line and go up in the updraft. Because the Skyscale is going to be insane. And the Griffin too as well, actually.
Thing will work. Like you'll hit like a button to put like the to put where it starts, and then you'll fly, and then you'll hit another button again, and it like creates a ley line between those 2 points. That'd be amazing for like commanders that can just be like, follow me, and you put this. Your Skyscale shits out a ley line, and the whole
everyone can follow you on. Yeah.
Cynically, I feel like that is literally going to be. There's going to be like preset pathways, and you go up to a little terminal, and you use your little JadeBot 2.0, and it just creates a ley line where you're going to go. But I do hope it's some sort of like custom pathing thing. That would be awesome.
Be pretty epic.
And what do we think of the mounted combat? Do we think there's going to be? I would love if there was something similar to the JadeBot Siege stuff, where like something has a shield and you got to break it with the fireball on Skyscale, and so you move up for a second.
Have you learned nothing from the tunnel, Bloom? Have you learned nothing? Yeah, dude. Okay, I'm actually going to expose Bloom here. When the tunnel dropped, okay, Bloom said, "It is over, Doomga. I am no longer Bloom. I am Doom. New name." Okay, the tunnel was so bad because of this, because it forced you to just spam the turtle constantly. It is not good.
Wait, no, I don't want these, like, I don't want how it was implemented in Gala. I think they had some right ideas in End of Dragons where the siege turtle could destroy certain barriers. That's all I want for the Skyscale.
I think that anything.
There is no barrier to a fly hack, so that's what the Skyscale.
No.
Is,
I
so
mean like literal physical shields, like on enemies, not on like objects that are like blocking your path through the meta or whatever. Just like enemies that have some. Because otherwise, why are you going to use the mounted combat? I don't know what the It's just I don't understand why it would be there.
Might be a DPS increase for a certain segment of the community.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
The issue is that I think the Guild Wars 2 combat system is very good. I think pulling you out of that is almost always a mistake. Like, that is my opinion with this. We saw this with the turtle. It's just annoying to use. Like, even though, I think it's cool that these mounts have a use, but you already have fly hack. I think the way I see the Skyscale is that, like, the mounted combat is like while you're flying towards a boss, you like fire off a few fireballs and then like dive bomb on it and start blasting, right? Okay, I'm 100% with you there. That makes sense to me. But with the siege turtle, it's like, oh, you can only break through this gate using the turtle. That's the stuff I don't like. If there's like other ways you can do it, you can just break it normally with regular combat, I think that's totally fine. But I really don't like the game pulling you out of, to be frank, its best feature, which is that combat system. I think that should be always held up on a pedestal and emphasized as much as possible. And I do not think that like sustained mounted combat does a very good job of engaging players. I don't think it's fun.
Sure. I'm just wondering why they would implement, like, what the point of them having mounted, like being able to mount up during combat, what the purpose for that is. Why
I think it's just it's a massive buff. No, it's just so you can
just run from the pocket.
So
raptors.
You can run. Yeah.
Oh my god, the pocket raptors are getting me. Mount up and fly away.
And it's very specific to Skyscale and Griffin. It's not like they're giving it to every mount, which just makes me think that there's some combat implementation for it.
I think I can. Oh yeah, go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that they're trying to make it so that, well, they got to create another carrot. They have to, right? There has to be some new benefit. And honestly, I wouldn't have thought of that initially, though. Now thinking about it, it does seem like it's kind of the obvious next step. But they're trying to also make it so that it's a massive convenience and something for people to chase. It is extremely annoying when you're doing world map completion or something,
and you're in combat.
Suddenly you get knocked off your mount or whatever. You can't get back on, and you have to kill other enemies or whatever. It's annoying, right? And so the idea of being able to just mount back up at any time is really, really nice. And so I think it's a good choice, because it's just going to be that carrot on a stick that people really want.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think you're completely correct about the convenience.
A
lot of Skyscale skins, yeah. Yeah, because I think that probably ultimately is, if we're going to get a little bit cynical, that's a big part of it, right? There's no monetization feature coming out with the expansion, right? There's no, you're not paying for the battle pass, right? You're not paying for anything else. You're paying a lower price, which that's a fun topic. And as a result of that, they've got to find some way to generate some revenue. And I guess, Skyscale skins are definitely a way to do that. People like dragons. People like riding on dragons. We definitely saw that with World of Warcraft, by the way. So it makes a lot of sense that they're going to try and generate some revenue utilizing these Skyscale skins that I think a lot of players are obviously going to go for when they have their brand new Skyscale, actually.
Now, if they listen to me, they're going to have a bunch of them available at launch.
Oh, they should.
When the X-Pack hits, there should be like 10 new Skyscale skins in the forum, from all the way from like Fire Edgelord Skyscale to like Glitter Unicorn Skyscale.
Oh yeah,
just all and just everything in between. Yep.
Yeah, you got to have them in there. You 100% do.
There's got to be a Skyscale for every teat on the milk. Yep.
Kind of crazy that we're getting so many. Like, we're getting an earnable Skyscale skin confirmed and an earnable Griffin skin confirmed.
Yeah.
So I mean, see where they expand.
I'm a big fan of that. You know, I almost never expected to see anything like that. Because I know that, you know, ArenaNet like to keep certain rewards very much exclusive to the gem store. I think it's really cool that they're being implemented in game. I hope to see a lot more of that. And certainly the Wizards Vault is that, right? You know, I would certainly expect to see certain things like the Copperfed Salvage-O-Matic ending up in the Wizards Vault, I think. Could be really fun. Maybe even some of the Blackline keys, right? Who knows? But yeah, it's very, very cool that they've gone that direction. I think it really speaks to the confidence they have in their product as well. They are very confident that players are going to enjoy the content, enjoy the systems, and then spend money, right, on the cash shop, right, like over time. So very happy about that. I think it's one of the major pain points with the game, I think, is that there's a huge amount of a lot of the really cool cosmetics, especially the mount skins and stuff. It's been on the gem store historically. And now that does appear to be breaking up a little bit. You know, the Skyscale skin, I think it looks absolutely putrid, but some people will probably like it. So, you know, the Griffin looks pretty cool, so you know that is the.
Speaking of cosmetics, the legendary armor looks amazing.
Ooh,
yeah,
absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah,
holy moly!
But there is one big problem with it.
Ooh.
It is noob stink.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean it's noob stink?
If I see somebody running around with full open world PvE legendary armor, I already know you're noob stink. It's a dead giveaway. Just like the same way if you see someone running around with full legendary raid armor, you know they are a raid buyer. That is a dead giveaway if someone is in full legendary raid armor that they are a buyer. Because people who actually raid do not do that anymore. It's just like Voidwalker. You see someone repping Voidwalker, you know they're a buyer. It's guaranteed.
Here, I've got the game in front of me. I'm wearing full legendary armor with the Voidwalker.
Wait, so what you bought, but you're a mega buyer?
Yeah,
I'm mega bot. Yeah.
I mean that's the perception, at least, is that it's a very noob stink perception, and I just feel like you're gonna see people with this armor, and like, man, I love Obsidian armor. In Guild Wars 1, all my characters have Obsidian armor, but in Guild Wars 2, it's noob stink. You can't touch it. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, it all memes aside, I'm definitely a big fan of this. You know, I think there has actually been this big gap in the legendary market, as it were. Whereas if you want to get legendary armor, you have to raid or do PvP or world versus world, which is kind of unusual. In fact, PvE is the only game mode where to get legendary armor you have to engage in group content, which is quite unusual actually, considering the nature of Guild Wars 2 being, you know, very solo oriented, to be honest, with like how you go about playing. So I think this is big. I think players are going to go absolutely berserk for it. They're going to go crazy for the legendary armor, and it does look cool. There is no trench coat on the medium armor. ArenaNet finally figured out that their whole silhouette argument was complete bullshit, and gave legendary armor with
there's no trench coat yet.
Yeah, there's no way they do it.
What if it blooms in combat?
There's no way.
I think I read on one of those articles that it does transform in combat. So hold your horses. You still might get some trench coat action.
Yeah, and there's no butt cape on the light as well. It's actually huge. They've just
just wait.
Yeah,
it actually when it transforms, it gives you an enormous butt cape. It literally drags along the ground. It's so massive.
Yeah. Oh man, that's not.
No, it looks excellent.
I think the PvE armor is such a positive thing. I'm actually very curious on all your opinions on this. I have long speculated about, you know, what kind of impact this might have on people getting into endgame content. Will it be worse or better? Because on one hand, you could argue, okay, well, now there's no reward to chase to do raids, so people just are going to do raids less. There's nothing convincing people to do raids. On the other hand, you could say, well, if people already have legendary armor, then they're going to be able to play pretty much any role, so it will make doing instance content just easier in general, strikes, raids, etc. The most frustrating possible thing when you're a commander or you're training people is when they say, actually, I only have one build. I only have the gear for this one build. I can't get anything else. I'm just not set up for it. And you're like, well, you have like 10 sets of ascended armor. Yeah, but I can't change them. So, or they say, well, I do have it, but I'm gonna have to go and spend 20 minutes shuffling armor and trinkets from like 10 different characters to make this work. By giving people legendary armor even before they go into some of this content, I think it actually will make it a lot easier for them to be proficient. But I'm kind of on the fence here. I'm not really sure if it's going to be better or worse. I think that the raid thing, though, that not having that big incentive for doing raids is going to probably hurt it quite a lot. Because people won't think about doing it then. There's some skins or whatever, but who cares at the end of the day? People are going to be looking for convenience or for power or for like a really cool look.
Yeah, I do worry about that for sure. That was my first concern. I feel like they've just got to add. I don't know if they'll do it, but they just got to add more stuff to raids. To be honest, if like
raids are dead, you're on cope. They're not. Raids are finished, shipped,
over,
and iterated on. They are.
You think
done,
emboldened
buddy.
mode was like the last thing? The
emboldened mode was
they were like,
them like throwing a bone, and the dog didn't want it, and so they're like, "Fuck it, we're out." Like that's it.
My copium is that I think they're still gearing up to do raids again.
Oh my god, this is insane.
Someone strap this guy down and inject some reality into it. Come on.
No, raids are Omega dead. It strikes, and I think I do think that open world PvE legendary armor does massively damage raids. Actually, it will. It doesn't. The thing is, it doesn't damage the existing community. It just prevents it from growing, right? Because that's another. There's just the incentive for players to even try that content is just non-existent, right? Why would you do the raid armor when you can do the open world armor? Because it's not going to involve any kind of stress.
Only reason
it'll just be a bit grindy,
to avoid
right?
noob stink.
Yeah,
we don't know yet. The open world legendary armor could be absolute like hell to grind. So who knows really? It could be like triple the cost.
It'll be pretty grindy. I think they'll make it pretty grindy because they want it to be like a long-term goal, right? That's for sure.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll do
raids
this,
may still be like the easiest path to legendary armor. We don't really know yet.
But what if they just added things like, I don't know. Say that you could add some kind of look or augment the visuals of the legendary armor in some way by doing specific sets of content. So you could become the world boss master, and it gets you this special animation to indicate that you've done that, right?
Okay. They did say they're adding new infusions, and they haven't like shown any of them off. So it's entirely possible that they will do things with the infusions in that direction.
So imagine if they had one for strikes and one for raids, right? Where if you had done strikes to all of them or something, or if you had done them a certain number of times or whatever, right? Some achievement set that you unlock some augment to your legendary armor that makes it look slightly different. I think that would be kind of a fun way to do it, because then people get all of the benefits of having legendary armor. It's still a really cool skin, but then there's some level of customization and challenge that would funnel people or make them at least curious about doing those other pieces of content. Because like we suggested before, you really do need people entering the funnel. You can't rely on the existing community to just keep it vibrant. New players have to be going in all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the infrastructure there. They did, Aurene variants, and I think seeing some
exactly
system with armor.
Yeah, what if there were variants?
For sure.
Yeah,
especially when there's like new strikes coming out, because they don't have to add. I mean, they don't have to add like a strike set of armor if they just have like a new variant of this open world armor. But now you got to do a bunch of achievements and strikes to get the new color or whatever.
The thing to remember is we're on a 1-year cycle.
Yeah.
Once the next expansion comes out, this armor is never going to be touched again, and the systems for getting it are never going to be touched again. Like it's a finished product. So there's only
that
so
is
much
true.
they
Yeah,
can do.
they've got to go fast. Yeah, they have to go. They do have to move. Well, I mean, yeah, because the thing is, it has to be within that entire cycle. They can't add something new in the next expansion and tie it into this expansion's legendary armor. It's going to be like a new legendary armor set. So like, yeah, it would be one hell of a commitment to do it for a whole bunch of stuff, especially if it was stuff outside of the expansion. Because bear in mind, if they say, okay, you've got to go do raids to upgrade the armor, well, that's completely separate to this expansion, right? So if anything, it will be like the strike missions that exist within the expansion. Raids are just putrid. There it is.
Oh boy, they're done.
Yeah. It's over, Sneb.
Rest in peace.
It
Lost
is
but not forgotten.
over. Yeah.
Sign up for Benchmark Brawl.
True. Do that. Yes. Raid tournament. Get in there. Yeah. Join us. Join us. Celebrating the situation.
Oh, we are. I mean, we are. I mean,
we've got to do combat.
Talked about the combat stuff. Let's go.
Yeah.
The juice.
Oh yeah.
This is where the flame might actually happen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, are you about to activate, Nike? You're about to
Perhaps,
pop off?
I'm gonna fix my webcam real quick while we
all right.
get into
Enjoy.
this topic.
But yes, gamers, the replacement for elite specializations. It's coming in a few sections, actually. So on launch, runes are being split into raw stats and special effects. So basically, like the 6 bonus is being split into its own thing called a relic. And also, elite specialization weapons are being unbound. You can now use them on any specialization that you want. You can be a hammer mechanist. You can be a mace scrapper.
One thing that wasn't clear is that that's tied behind a mastery. You will have to level up a mastery to get that, which is why it's an expansion feature and not a core game feature.
Weapon master training.
There's going to be a lot of people who think they're going to be getting that without paying their $25. And sorry to tell you, pay up, sucker. If you want the good shit.
Yeah, it absolutely is an expansion feature. Which I mean, that makes sense. They've got to sell the X pack, right? I think that makes perfect sense to me, right? Like it's part of the expansion experience. We are also getting some. I think this will be free though, right? When they add new weapons to the core classes later on in a future update.
If they do that in you mean like the weapons that are coming in patch 2? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if those are like a new tier of that mastery, of the weapon proficiency mastery.
Oh, you think? Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, they could go that direction.
And then like the next expansion, if they want to do that again, they can just add another tier that you level up.
Yeah, that's some potential. But again, maybe I'm crazy, but I don't really view that as unreasonable, to be honest.
No, I like it, but I do know that people on the forums will be mad about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I guess we might as well get into this now. Actually, as a bit of a sidebar, I guess. But I think that we have been unbelievably spoiled by, to be frank, ArenaNet's insane pricing. Like they've been giving away content that they spend millions of dollars on creating for free for a very long time in the form of Living World, and they reduce the price of their expansions as well. And now, don't get me wrong, they milk you pretty hard on the gem store, right? But at the end of the day, it's expensive to develop Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 is a major game. It's hard, and devs cost money, guys. They're not doing it for free. And I'm old-fashioned. I'm going to admit to everyone here on stream, I am old-fashioned. I love it when instead of a microtransaction, the devs say, "Hey, Teapot, we've got new content and features, and we'll sell them to you for money." It's like, oh, it's so beautiful. No bullshit MTX. No making the game worse and making it inconvenient and then selling you the solution on the store. Not buying a skin. They just say, "Hey, would you like to buy some content?" I'm like, yes. Yes, ArenaNet. Yes, I do. So I will always defend developers selling me their game for money. That is my favorite thing. And I think anyone who's pissed off about like paying $25 a year for Guild Wars 2, $2 a month sub fee. Are you kidding me? Like, it's optional as well. You don't have to. You don't want to buy expansion. Don't buy it, right? Like, I don't know. I think it's extremely reasonable. I think it's perfectly fair to expect you to pay for expansion features, even, like the combat updates. Like, I don't know. Like, that's the name of the game. That's the way it should be. It is good. That's it.
The official forums would lead you to believe that there's a very large contingent of the community who believes otherwise. They are absolutely on an unhinged heater on the forums about how the expansion isn't worth it, and I have to say that is completely delusional. Absolutely delusional.
So painful. Just imagining that somebody looks at that, looks at everything that's offered and goes, wow, that's not worth it. And these people are going to be fans of the game if they're willing to post on the forums or whatever. So they actually like the game. They see all of the features, all of the content. They look at the price, which was less than the last expansion. Granted, there's slightly less content. And they go, it's not worth it? I don't get it. I just think that's so entitled. It's
also
ridiculous.
It's a whole year's worth of content. You get the expansion, but you also get all the follow-up content until the next expansion. You don't need to pay another $25 until
value.
literally this time next year.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That's crazy.
Yeah. I think it's I do think that it's obviously a minority of users, to be honest, but I think a big part of it is that, and this is something that does actually, I'll admit this, it hurts my soul a little bit because I feel very strongly about video. I really like video games. I'm a big video game fan, always have been. It's been my hobby of choice for a long time, and people do not appreciate video games at all, right? Like if you're gonna spend $25, I know you do. You're going to spend $25, guys. You're going to get realistically, at the minimum, you'll get like a couple of 100 hours, right? Out of the expansion. That's at the minimum. It's going to scale up to thousands, I think, for a lot of like more engaged, more veteran users. And it does make me a little bit sad for the developers that the devs pour their heart and soul into this incredible work of creativity. And people are like, yeah, I'd pay like $10 for it. Like, no, it's worthless, actually. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, it's really upsetting to me almost because I think video games are not appreciated for the art form that they are. We're all happy to pay, I don't know, $20 to go see a movie or even more than that, to be honest, right? Or like, whatever. But you know what? Video games, no. Okay, this is something that I want for free and I want it now for no money and it has to be bigger and better.
The movie is like $12. The popcorn at the movie.
That's true. They'll get you for that. They get you on the popcorn, yeah.
Look, this means that the people that are going to the forums are complaining about a game they actually like, and they're complaining about spending $25 on that instead of $25 on popcorn. It is absurd. It is absolutely absurd that anyone would complain about that.
Yeah. I would say you don't even like, even if you're spending nothing right now because you're not buying anything in the gem store, you have even more incentive to spend nothing with the Wizard's Vault because there's going to be cool stuff coming in there too, and that's free. Yeah. So I don't know, you're getting more than ever for $25 a year.
Yeah. I feel like ArenaNet went and thought, how do we make this like pretty consumer friendly? We're going to offer some mount skins that are in-game reward based. We're going to do this battle pass type thing, but make it better and more consumer friendly. And then guess what's going to happen? All of our consumers are going to rebel against us and complain about it. Holy.
It's weird that the Reddit is like uniformly positive about the expansion, like, and the pricing, and the official forums are like uniformly negative, which solidifies my theory that the official forums are in fact like a trap to like, it's like a gutter trap that like sucks in all the trash and keeps it sequestered there where it can't leak out into the rest of the system.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're looking at with the official forums.
There have been a few comments about regional pricing, and I think this is actually a legitimate criticism, though, for sure. Actually, because obviously $25 is not the same everywhere in the world. And I think that's definitely something ArenaNet should look at, right? For sure. I think a lot of games offer regional pricing. Wait, does Steam offer regional pricing for Guild Wars 2?
No, not for
Guild Wars 2. Don't think so. I don't think it does. But that actually might be something that they may want to actually consider. Because I mean, they should do that anyway, right? Like, that's the same on gems, right? Like on gems, the regional pricing obviously is certainly going to shaft you if you use a particular currency, of course, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty good. But let's quickly re-rail, I guess, back onto what we were talking about, the weapon systems.
Okay, now this frightens me.
Oh, really?
Balance-wise, I'm frightened.
Oh, it's apocalypse. So it's coming.
All right.
I'm embracing
when they want to balance the game, they have a lot of different levers, like that they can pull. By homogenizing the weapons across all the specs, they are removing weapons as a lever that they can balance internally.
Yeah.
So like, yes, you can buff if you want like Rev to do more damage than Necro, you can buff a Rev weapon, but that buffs all the Rev specs. So you have to want that for all the Rev specs. And then let's say Vindicator is doing either more or less damage than Herald, and you want Vindicator and Herald to be equal. Well, you cannot touch the weapons, because like before, the easy answer would be, okay, buff Greatsword or nerf Greatsword. But now you can't touch the weapons, so you have like the traits are like the heavy lifting, are going to be doing all the heavy lifting and balance from now on, and that's scary.
You know what? Maybe good.
It might be good,
but it's the
but
traits, you know,
there's like really weird things like that we've already seen in the beta, like DPS hollow, or like hollow with hammer is so much better than Scrapper with hammer, and it will always be so much better than Scrapper with hammer. Like hollow will be better at hammer than Scrapper will be forever, and it cannot change because they cannot tweak the hammer. So it's and if they buffed Scrapper to be equal, then Scrapper would just be like the most OP spec in the game. So it's just insane. And I think there's going to be issues like that across the board. Like Warhorn on Weaver is insanely busted.
It's good. Pretty good.
And if they nerf Warhorn, well, that nerfs it for Tempest. But Tempest is weak. So what do they get to do? They're going to have to like giga juice the Tempest traits. Like, it's really weird. And it's going to create really weird systems.
Yeah, it certainly does complicate things, and it'll be a lot to unravel, but I think in most situations you can probably find a way in the traits, and in some ways that almost might end up being easier eventually, because a lot of the power is going to be on the traits, on the elite specialization, rather than spread. It's almost like going to centralize quite a lot of the power onto those traits over time when things are going to get sorted out. That might make... It's going to make trait choices like very impactful, right? Which maybe is good. That might allow players to understand it a little bit better and able to parse like how the build operates a bit more potentially, which could be fun. But overall, I have to say, I think if the desired outcome was to find a kind of a development cheap version of elite specs, I do think this implementation does get you there. Maybe not quite, but on its own. But I think that's why they did the rune thing as well, and that's why they're also adding new weapons too. Like those three things, that package, 100%. Like look, adding a new elite spec didn't give us heal warrior, but giving it staff, that probably will, to be honest, right? And I think that this is where you kind of dig in. What is the point of an elite spec? What is your goal? What is ArenaNet's goal? The goal is to create new playstyles and new builds. And yeah, giving the weapons to everyone, changing how runes work, maybe sigils down the line too, right? Like adding a new weapon. Honestly, yeah, that'll do it. That will 100% create the desired effect of creating new playstyles and new builds for players to enjoy. And we already see that in the beta. There's a lot of experimentation in all three game modes right now when it comes to coming up with some new ideas with a variety of effectiveness, as there always will be in a balanced situation like this. But yeah, some big highlights, like Hammer Hollowsmith in PvP, Greatsword Scourge in World versus World, right? Mace Heel Scrapper is really quite nice, actually, in PvE right now. And, you could go on, right? Oh, Catalyst, or Weaver, right? Like Weaver with Warhorn and Sword, absolutely busted like 50k DPS. There's a lot of potential in there. And of course, we've only had a couple of days to mess around with it. A lot will, come out of the woodwork when players have like an entire expansion to play with it. Really cool stuff, I think.
I think this gives us even more than elite specs, to be honest. Because when we get the elite specs and they launch, in terms of build craft, I feel like per class, you get maybe like 2 to 3 different builds. But with the like cross elite spec weapon thing, plus new weapons, plus the relic system, that's like way, way more new options than what we get with just elite specs, in my opinion. Especially because they've said that those new weapons are going to be tied to like, they're going to be based around the lesser used trait lines or something like that. Kind of incentivize you to spec into something else.
Yeah.
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 I am sort of worried. I feel bad as selfishly as a warrior player that
Yeah,
the
not much
warrior
there.
elite spec weapons do not add anything to the other specs. So
Right.
gonna be waiting for that for staff before
Mm.
we get anything new really. I think what is it? Guardian also is not getting too much until the pistol patch.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's.
They can't all be hammer hollow.
It's not
Yeah.
gonna work. It's not gonna work all the time, right? You know, like
Yeah.
it's for sure. You know, but that's kind of like the trade-off, right? And I think there are other options you can do too, because down the line, because I think this is what we're going to be seeing, something similar to this, and as equally scary as it would be, I could see them adding new utility skills, core utility skills, maybe new trait lines as well. I think that this approach can be extremely impactful, but weirdly enough, I completely agree with everyone's concerns here. It's probably going to be harder to balance than elite specs, even in a lot of ways. Actually, even they'll be able to rail the design in a bit easy. So like they won't have like game mode ending stuff like Scourge and Firebrand or like stuff that's that oppressive. But keeping all the numbers in check is going to be really difficult. To be honest. And I admit this, I am actually a little bit worried about PvP in particular. I think as this goes on and as more systems get added, I can see PvP becoming essentially impossible to balance and suffering as a result of this. World versus world, I feel like you'll be able to get away with it. It's a little spooky, but you might get away with it. And PvE, you can just mess around with the numbers and it'll probably work out pretty okay. But yeah, if I was a PvP player, I'd be a little bit nervous, to be honest, with some really, really just horrible, putrid builds emerging with like the weapon master stuff and like other similar changes down the line.
Well, one thing I can say about the change to the rune and relic system is invest heavily in Flame Legion runes now. Buy chat. This is some advice.
Once again,
buy Flame Legion runes.
I gotta buy quick.
Heavily invest.
Buy
bank
Flame
tab
Legion?
full of Flame Legion runes.
Flame Legion runes.
They're so cheap right now.
So what do we think about runes and runes relics? What are you thinking about this? Yeah,
awesome stuff.
I think it's a cool idea. It's a cool idea.
Being able to build your own rune set is great.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's power creep.
It is power creep. Yeah, it definitely is power creep. Yeah,
we're gonna all have way more efficient rune sets.
Yep, like, we are. Yeah,
like every class that had thief runes and like hated using thief runes, not only for the flanking part, but also like the fact that you have like these Condi stats that you just like wasting. Now it's gonna be scholar stats with, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna be just way better. All those builds are gonna get way better immediately.
Yeah, because you just have more stats. You just get all the stats you want, and you can pick any bonus that you might want as well. And one thing that I'm really intrigued about is that I think they want to make all the bonuses active, right? Which is very interesting to me, and I think might potentially lead to a lot of runes being quite impactful to the way that you might play, or at least more than they are right now. A lot of runes, especially in PvE, but honestly in PvP as well, actually, they're just a stat stick. Basically, it's like, oh yeah, I've got a bunch of stats, and I've got this bonus that I have all the time, like a passive bonus. But they actually kind of showed off what the Thief relic is going to look like Relic of the Thief. It's going to be whenever you use an attack that costs energy, so not an auto attack, you'll gain a 1% damage buff that stacks up to 5 times, and you can refresh that whenever you do that. So it's like you have to keep attacking to maintain that the entire time. And I imagine we're going to see a lot of relics that activate when you use your heal skill, that activate when you use your elite skill, maybe activate when you use a profession mechanic or weapon swap, right, or something like that. And that leaning into more active gameplay, which we've seen them do with traits as well a little bit recently, really cool. I'm very excited to see what they've come up with and like how many of these things there are going to be on launch. And obviously, I think not adding runes was actually one of the kind of more disappointing things with Ender Dragons. So now that we're going to be having essentially new runes and more runes added over time, it's a big fan of the system. A lot of customization options when you mix and match these things. Almost a bit more reminiscent of how they wanted the original rune system to operate.
My copium take is that we're gonna finally see the missing runes for the EOD specs because they're gonna be easier for them to design. because they don't have to worry about like what stats you tack onto them. Like, because if you want one to be playable in PvE, it has to have power and ferocity. You know, it's like so like that instantly limited their design space. Now they have unlimited design space, and I'm really hoping they do, like you said, active wise lean into the mechanic. Like the relic of the Berserker should be like when you go into Berserk mode, gain X, or whenever you use a primal burst, gain X. Like, you know, stuff that actually is relevant to the elite spec.
I feel like maybe that would be moving it too much off the traits, potentially. Like you could, if it was a elite spec specific thing, they just put it in the traits instead. But it is cool that they've got this extra lever, as you say, to like adjust, you know, these sorts of things. I'm really excited for that active stuff. I think it reminds me a lot of like the extra build craft you have in like WoW and Diablo, where you have the extra little proc effects for certain conditions. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to have my rock dog permanently. Yeah.
Perma rock dog can tank for you.
Perma rock dog.
Yeah, or the golem, the Golemancer runes,
exactly.
right? Relic of the Golemancer.
And next expansion, second relic slot, baby. Let's go.
No, they're not going to do that.
Go.
No,
it's gonna be. We're gonna get a legendary relic. But maybe that'll be in a later patch. They didn't. I'm gonna remind myself to only take ArenaNet at their word. They didn't say legendary relic, so we're not getting a legendary relic. I trust ArenaNet to only give us exactly what they said they're giving us, and they didn't say it, so it's not coming yet.
That to me is a huge oversight, because isn't it going to be really weird if all of your gear is legendary except one piece? I guess it's already like this with the Jadebot core, fun. Yeah, which is kind of annoying. But now it's going to be 2 pieces are not going to be legendary. That's a bit weird, I think. I imagine they'll probably try to have some kind of implementation. Like either if you have 7 legendary runes, you'll get the relic for free, a legendary relic, or maybe there'll be some kind of collection or other recipe that you can craft to get your legendary relic as well. Because I can't imagine that they won't actually have a solution for this in place, because it seems like one of the pretty obvious things. If you're adding a new piece of gear, then
it would feel like a downgrade if you don't have it. Like it'll feel like you lost functionality when the
exactly
came out,
and they probably don't want that. You know, they don't. I feel like they don't want you to have that.
But they didn't say it yet. Ruby did say, she made a forum post saying that there will be compensation for people that have legendary runes, but until they say you're getting a legendary relic, I'm not gonna bet
I have
on
an
it.
announcement.
Oh, okay.
As your local economist, I would just like to say that Flame Legion runes have gone up over 500%.
They
Wait,
can't
what?
go down.
Right, what's the
Maybe
price,
over
Shane? Checking this out.
1,000%.
Let's see what we got.
Look, I
Flame
bought
Legion.
when they were at 6 silver. They're at 33 right now.
Ooh,
Wow.
Wow.
33 silver. So, I mean, Nike, once again, much like the Onion Farm, has affected the Guild Wars 2 economy.
And much like the onion farm, I was right about that. If you'd invested in onions when I told you to, you would have made out like a fat rat. So.
Yeah. You know,
Fat jam.
I want to talk about this. What do we think about the new weapons? I think that's, honestly, that's something to look forward to after launch. I hope it's soon after launch. It might be a while, because I imagine that's a lot of work. But let's just go over it here. Guardian, Pistol, Revenant, Scepter main hand, Warrior, Staff, NG, Shortbow, Ranger, Dual Maces, Thief, Axe main hand, Ellie, Pistol main hand, Mesmer, Rifle, and Necromancer, Dual Wield Swords. Honestly, those sound pretty sick, actually. Those are really cool. And that will be on all elite specializations. Bear that in mind. Very, very cool. Yeah, it's second major release after launch is what they're trying to do that on, by the way. So it'll be 6 months after launch approximately. It's like halfway through the expansion cycle. Brand new weapons for everything. The only one that I feel that really sticks out there to me and amuses me massively, by the way, is Elementalist Pistol instead of Longbow. That's they wanted the longbow, and it's not happening.
Longbow.
I'm really surprised they're not getting the longbow to us. It's like the obvious choice. I think it's probably if I had to guess, because it you know, adding a weapon to Ellie adds more skills than anything else. So not only is it a balance concern, I also think it's actually a design concern, like development stuff, right? You know, they have to make way more skills for Ellie, basically, especially when you consider the fact that it's going to go to Weaver. So it's like loads of visual effects and so on, like loads of abilities, loads of extra skills. So I guess they go with the main hand there. But don't give up hope. I will say this before I let everyone else get on this.
Anything
they can still make it
skill.
to, yeah, it can be anything, yeah. It could basically be still a 1200 range pistol. In fact, Mesmer pistol skills are 1200 range. So it can actually be that uber long range
It could even be a pistol
elementalist.
that looks like a longbow.
True. Well, I mean, you can have the little crossbow, right? I think. So kind of.
Yeah, there you go. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But overall, really exciting weapons, I think. What do we think, gamers, of the
I'm thinking
new
that
weapons?
Sword Necro is going to be a Minion Mancer set.
Wait, Minion Monster?
I think it's gonna. They're going for the crowd pleaser. All the people that play Necro in their hearts, they want to be Minion Mancers.
Yeah.
And I think you're gonna have like a full like Minion Mancer support. It's like it's gonna be like the Guild Wars 1 like Minion Mancer toolkit where you have like, you know, like one of your skills is gonna be like orders of whatever that like make your minions hit harder for a little bit. Like one of the skills is gonna summon minions. Yeah, like there's gonna be it's gonna fill it, because that's like the one play style that you really can't do is like all in Minion Mancer in PvE. Like you can have a bunch of minions in your bar, but you are just a guy with minions running around. You're not really a Minion Mancer. You're not you're not casting spells that manipulate your minions, which is I think what people want out of that play style.
Only thing I'm disappointed about is Scepter Revenant. I don't know. Not a fan of Scepter. I would have loved like dual dagger Revenant or main hand pistol Revenant, offhand pistol, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Scepter's just not. I don't think it's a very cool weapon. Just like fantasy wise,
Okay.
It's just, it's okay. It's okay. I'll be going back to Guardian for dual pistols. That's
Okay.
cool as hell.
Yeah. That is cool. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think dual pistols is going to be? Like, what do you think? What role does it need?
What's the symbol gonna look like on the pistol skill?
It will probably you probably fire a symbol at someone, I guess.
That sounds lame as fuck, but okay.
I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be like Willbender. You know, you're like Tracer from Overwatch, right? You're like zipping around and like firing at people. Yeah.
Well, you will be a Willbender.
Yes. Oh yeah. Look, Jesus.
I mean, I don't care about any of those weapons. Only one matters. There's only one that matters on that list, and it's actually Staff on Warrior.
That's gonna.
I think that's really intriguing.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a bust. I think they're gonna make it support. I think that.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's gonna be like I've said before. They can take Rev Staff and just copy paste it, and that would make the Warrior heal boys, the people that really want that, happy. But I think they'll make it even better. It'll be like way juiced out. I think it's gonna be overpowered actually, but I'm still not gonna play it.
Yes. Wait, will you ever play Heal Warrior? Will you ever play Heal Warrior?
I will never make green numbers on my Warrior. Never.
Yeah. I mean, I think this would have been a build that I think players have been really waiting for, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to deliver on it. I was expecting Staff with EOD, to be honest, for Warrior. You know, like
what if Staff is actually a spear? What if it's a throwing spear?
Like a rain. Honestly, I would actually like that.
I want that to happen just to piss off the heal people. So it's like not even a heal.
It'll be Paragon. You could easily do it.
Yeah.
You could easily do it with ranged spear. They could really into the whole Paragon thing. A ranged staff for warriors that also is like a thing that you throw the staff at people.
Yeah. Why not? Revenant has like the throwing the hammers, so I don't see why they couldn't just be throwing stuff.
It'd be great if everyone thinks it's going to be support, but it's not, and they just Uno reverse us. Oh my god, the community would like definitely die, and I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah,
I don't play Mesmer, but Mesmer Rifle is really cool as well. That's really exciting to me.
That is going to be interesting. Yeah, to see where they go with that. For sure. It is.
Sniper phantasms that do kill shots. That would be
Mesmer Rifle ambush where all of your phantasms do kill shots at the same time.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Because Mesmer doesn't have Greatsword as a ranged option, but it's a slightly unusual ranged option, right? It's not like a conventional weapon. It's like, you know, you get a lot of your damage out of your burst. as opposed to a more like consistent weapon. And then Staff obviously is very good on specifically Mirage, right? Because of, of the ambush attack. So then they'll probably give it some very consistent, like solid damage output with the rifle, which I think is a little bit.
Maybe it's a healing rifle.
Healing rifle? Yeah, that would be interesting actually, because there's no heal rifle in the game yet, and Mesmer could definitely use a little bit of help with its a lot of its like healing oriented builds for sure. Like Chronomancer is not really there, to be honest. So yeah, heal rifle is also a possibility, and I'm pretty sure that ArenaNet are. I feel like historically they've just basically made stuff that's cool, not necessarily stuff that is either balanced or fixes something with the profession. Whereas I think now they're going to go in that direction much more aggressively, especially seeing as there's no elite specs. They're going to actively try and use balance patches and new additions to the combat system to enable playstyles and fill the holes in various professions so that they can essentially, get to the point where it's what's the meme? Bring the player, not the class, right? Like that's what you want to get to in the game.
Bring the special action key, not the class.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a special action hotkey. I mean,
yet.
Yeah.
We still got the next expansion where they've run out of all the good ideas.
I think that really speaks to how important this expansion was in terms of getting people's hope back. There was actually a large portion of the community that unironically thought the new combat feature for Secrets of the Obscure was going to be a special action hotkey. That is how low the expectation was. People assumed that the game was going to be appallingly bad and it was totally over. Like
that was like my mid-tier estimation of what it could be. Like the highest concept thing I could think of was like aerial combat. Like where like you can like be like, like the Rocketeer or something where you're like flying in the air and you use your skills. But it's like underwater but in the air. That was what I was thinking for like the high concept. So I'm glad it's none of that.
Yeah. Yes.
Bonus.
Bonus.
There is bonus. So in the beta of the elite spec weapon thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you use hammer on any spec outside of Untamed in Ranger, you can select which version of the hammer skill you can use.
Oh yeah.
Right? You can use the unleashed or the non-unleashed. So you can mix and match, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
Like pick whichever one. And it's got a whole separate UI. Like it's a new UI. I reckon after the new weapons or whatever, I reckon next X pack we're just getting new skills for different weapons that you can.
It's certainly something that they're going to think about for sure. And the thing is, I don't think it's that much work for them because you know what? You're actually wrong, Blue. It's not a new UI. It's the exact same the UI they use for utility skills. In fact, I think that's why they were
never had it on that side.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. I think this is why they were able to implement that in a short notice because I think they literally just extended it out like to the left side of the bar. So yeah, I think that could be something that they add is that you can have an alternative weapon skill set for a different weapon. I think. The balance part of my brain is kind of screaming at me here a little bit. I'm kind of leaning towards what Grimjack is saying in the chat that maybe you should have to commit to one or the other rather than being able to mix and match. Because honestly, that sounds really spooky, especially in PvP, to be honest. If you can just pick like the most busted 2 skill, the most busted 3 skill, really hard to handle that. But honestly, does sound like certainly a direction they could go. Like, oh yeah, you can take a different skill and it turns your weapon into a combi weapon instead of a power weapon. You can tick, you can be a condition, or it turns it into a heal weapon or a boon weapon, right? And something like that. That's a almost unlimited avenue of what they could bring to the table in like the abilities that you can have.
Sure. I don't think you should be able to mix and match either, for the record. I think that's like just too much. Because I think you need to be able to balance trade-offs with each of these things. And as soon as you start to like pick specific ones, you just eliminate the trade-offs for yourself. So I think it should just like basically be a something attached to a trait that totally changes your entire skill bar for that that weapon.
Yeah, I mean, even as it is right now, Hammer on Untamed is now or rather Hammer on a non-Untamed elite spec in PvP is going to be very weird because you actually are not going to know what abilities that player necessarily has. That's actually a bit of a dangerous threshold in Guild Wars 2 in a competitive mode because the game has always been, you can see what your opponent has and you know what they're capable of, right? You know what abilities they have access to. It's a little bit scary if that's not the case. I mean, it's already, I guess, not the case with utility skills to an extent, but like having it on weapons would also be something that's they have to be careful with it, right? Like you definitely have to be careful for sure.
Sure.
Yeah. You know,
Well, it'll be fun.
It'll be fun. I think that kind of covers it for the combat features, right? Did we miss anything about the combat features? I don't think we did, actually. I believe that didn't happen. You know, there's one thing that we kind of touched about at the start that I also kind of want to delve into a little bit. What do we think about the tone of the expansion? Because personally, I'm definitely into it. I've always found Guild Wars 2 to be a little bit... I almost can't take it seriously. You know, outside of a few elements where it got a little bit darker, a little bit more mature with the story, I always thought it was a bit of a kind of like slightly whimsical fairy tale adventure, but not in the good way. And you know, outside of stuff like I really enjoyed some of the darker elements of the Icebrood saga actually, you know, like before they resurrected Aurene, that was pretty hype in season 4, and like the Joko stuff was pretty good. But it's been like whatever. I haven't been a huge fan of the tone. But it looks like we're going almost a bit more Guild Wars 1, right? A little bit more gothic, a little bit of a darker tone, demons, right? And if you see the artwork for some of these new enemies, right, the cryptids, right, they're horrible. You know, they're evil. They're you know, they're grotesque, like Dead Space monstrosities almost. Which that's a great game. I love it. It looks really good. And they even teased, well, it could not even be the final villain, but I feel like they teased the final villain, right? Like this kind of demonic figure in the trailer right at the end, who, by the way, this is a bit of a meme, but I actually checked this. If you look at that model right at the end, right, the enemy there, it basically appears to be the same model as Demos, but with like extra arms, which is, well, even more arms than he already has. So yeah, that could be really exciting. The return of the raid boss, potentially, or maybe somewhat linked with what this entity, right, like what the Demos entity actually is. So personally, you know, like I'm not really like a huge lore buff or story player in Guild Wars 2. You know, it's all right. I enjoy it. You know, it's content. I like going on a date with Kanak. I'm about that. But I am intrigued. I think the entire setting is going to be really, really cool going into this expansion.
Be there, so it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
And it seems like from the teasers, and I think one of the blog posts talked about it, that the expansion's not just going to be set on those new maps, that there'll be stuff happening on like core Tyria maps as well, which I think is cool. And I hope they leverage that to just have more writing, longer story. I don't know. Not all of it has to be set on the 2 maps, and then that's it. I am a little concerned that like this is going to be the first expansion that I think won't end with a solid conclusion. Like the conclusion is going to be months and months out in like a later patch. Like, do you think they'll properly conclude?
Yeah,
like,
I think they are.
Some mini arc with the expansion.
Yeah. They said this, no? Didn't they say this?
Did they? I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of going to be like a like how in like Eye of the North, or I'm sorry, in Nightfall in Guild Wars 1, you beat Abaddon, but then like Malix is still there, and like, you know, you have to go fight Malix after Abaddon's gone. I think it's going to be sort of like we kill whatever the Abaddon thing is in the main expansion, and then the follow-up patches are like, oh, but his super badass lieutenant has taken over the Realm of Torment, and we have to go fight him in the follow-up patches.
Gotcha.
Something like that.
I think it'll be a bit like season...
They've got to... I'm only concerned because they've got to start and end that sort of mini story within like one shorter expansion. Like it's not the full-sized expansion size, so I'm worried that like they've really got a bunch of writing.
No, but they have like the updates following it, right? So
yeah.
there'll be some kind of main conclusion, but I agree with Nike. There'll be something that sort of lingers on that you have to go and solve that will lead into the next expansion. Is my guess.
Yeah. And that's typically how other MMOs I think work as well. They've done similar sort of.
I've got a lore question. Like, what the fuck is a wizard? Are the wizards elementalists, mesmers, and necromancers that like just like do their own thing up in the sky? Or are they like a different type of spellcaster entirely that's different from the schools of magic that the players in the game use, because like, are wizards Ellies? Like, what are they? Like, what spells are they casting?
Will there suddenly be a sorting hat when you get to the wizard's house?
Well, the wizards summon elementals, right? So I think at least the wizard is an elementalist, I think.
It seems like they do, like, they play around with like astral magic and stuff. Kind of like the CM Sunqua boss, you know? It's this star sort of like cosmic
and
energy.
that they were also talking about that a lot. You know, we're finding our place in the cosmos, right? Like, you know, wait, didn't Boots actually say this? I can't believe he was right about this. He's in the chat right now. Didn't Boots say? Wait, was it Boots or Deroy? It was probably both of them, actually. Okay, I think they both said that the expansion is Guild Wars 2 in space. And isn't that literally what we're doing right now?
A lot.
Like,
yeah.
we actually are doing Guild Wars 2 in space. We're actually going there, kind of, right? It's actually weird. I feel like all MMOs go this way, because WoW has done this. I think Final Fantasy has done this too, right? Like, space has happened. Obviously, Destiny does, because, you know, that I mean, yeah. But yeah, like all MMOs, it always ends up in space at this point.
I think they just run out of things to do on the main planet. And they're like, well, you must venture out.
Like, but they have like the mists. Like, they can like take us to another world if they want, like different realms. Like, it doesn't have to be like god realms necessarily, but it could be like other realms that like we never even knew existed. Like, they can tell any story they want, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, tangentially to that, I think the open world experience is going to be very different as well. I think it's going to be like mega vertical, right? And they're going to alleviate that with the Skyscale, right? And the Griffin being incredibly strong so you can navigate it. But I'm really curious to see what they're going to come up with the open world events and how the meta events are going to operate, because it looks like it's going to be like islands and archipelago, right? And broken things like floating around all over the place, like over Tyria. And that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Of course, it's 2 maps on launch, a third one coming on later. And again, it's slightly irrelevant to what we were discussing, but I really hope that the meta events are good. Like, that's actually one of the things I'm really looking out for, is that I want to see some good world bosses. I want Dragon's End V2.
Well, I mean, you're only getting 2 maps, so 2 meta events for now.
Yeah.
So they better be good.
Dragon's End. Suwon 2.
What do you think the actual chances of that? I mean, look,
0.
I really want that too.
I want one of... Go ahead.
I was just going to say that Dragon's End was perhaps one of the highlights of my gaming experience in Guild Wars 2. When it first launched and it was really hard and everything, and people were trying to figure it out, it was wicked fun. I don't think they'll ever do it again, but it pains me to say that.
Yeah, I want recapturing the Eternal Forge for crafting the open world legendary armor. Make that one of the, because like, what if that, like, when Krauk destroyed the God realms, there's like floating chunks of things in the atmosphere, like Dragonfall. So why not have the Eternal Forge be like one of those floating islands, and it's covered with like Shadow Army dudes, and we have to go recapture it? That would be really good. I mean, where else are we going to get the obsidian armor from anyway? It's got to be the Fissure of Woe. So it's the most likely way that it will show up.
Nice. I will say one more thing as well to close out like this topic.
Okay.
August 22nd release date.
Oh yeah.
What do we think of that? Were we not expect? I was definitely not expecting that. I actually thought it was going to be like September. Yeah.
Thank you, ArenaNet, for actually giving us some notice this time so that we can book off work. I think I speak for many fans.
I know when they said summer, I was expecting whatever the last possible Monday that counted as summer to be. So actually they did.
2 months. 2 months.
Oh yeah, it's not long. It's not long. It's coming.
It's going to come up really fast.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it's great. Yeah, I was certainly more expecting it to be September, October, that sort of range. Then it was like, wait, they said, you know, it's coming, you know, a new threat emerges this summer. Okay, hang on. That's a little bit interesting.
I remember saying on a TeaTime earlier this year.
Yeah.
The next expansion would be this year, and nobody believed me. Everyone was like, no. There's no way. It's still another year out.
Well, we're used to ArenaNet. Can you blame us? You know, I mean, come on.
I know. That's fair enough. But man, I knew it. I knew it had to be this year, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
August.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be the beginning of next year, but then I think it was like a month ago. I put out a tweet and I was thinking about it and I changed my mind and I said, I think something might actually happen this summer. And shockingly it did. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm gonna just say it again. I can't believe they actually gave us a bunch of notice. This is so important because now they can sort of build into this hype. People will all take time off, and the game will just be even more vibrant when it actually launches. Because last time was a bit of a fiesta because they were like, wait, we're not going to release it yet. It's going to be in February. But then they wouldn't tell us when in February. And I speculate that that's because they weren't 100% confident it was going to happen in February. And so they were just, they sort of went crazy and somehow got it done on the last possible day. But that actually really frustrated a lot of people.
From a high level, I will say like all these announcements definitely kind of proves their confidence in this product. And they've given us the date, the release date, as well as the assurance that there is patches coming afterwards. And not exactly, but some of the stuff that's coming in those patches, in the first patch, the second patch, it's really cool. It's very exciting. I feel like we haven't had this level of assurance before. The expansion usually launches, and we're like, that was great. What's next? And we've got nothing. And we're like, fuck, what's happening? What are we getting in the next update? But this one
feels a little bit more organized this time around.
Yeah.
It feels like they're really ahead. Like they're actually stuff is already done. Like the expansion's done. The post-patch stuff is done.
The releases are coming. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely feels that this is something that's been missing in Guild Wars, so that's a great point. It's always been, when is the next thing? Is there even a next thing coming, right? Is it over, right? It's always been in the back of every Guild Wars 2's player mind. And it feels like, I mean, we've got the expansion, then there's going to be another year, then they're going to do another one, right? And they're just going to keep going. Like, you really get the idea that they have a bit of momentum right now, and they are very actively dedicated to developing the game. Hey, maybe one day they'll even release alliances, right? In fact, there's actually an alliance test coming up, I believe, actually, as well. Like it will eventually release. Sneb and Bloom are both wrong. Both individuals here saying they'll never release alliances. He still doesn't believe alliances are ever releasing. Yeah.
Because then if they do release, then I'm surprised, right? I get to experience that joy. But right now, you just believe that they're never happening.
Yeah,
they should have done the Alliances beta at the same time as the Elite Spec weapon beta. Absolute chaos. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Will my other prediction come true? That's the real question.
What's your other prediction?
That alliances might come out at the same time as the expansion.
No. I don't think that makes any sense.
They would have said it. They would have said it.
It doesn't make any sense because they can't. They can't. It's not an expansion feature, right? And anything that's not an expansion feature, they don't want to release at the same time as an expansion because then it will be overshadowed by the expansion, I think.
Maybe it'll come out in like the first update after the expansion.
So if the patches are coming out quarterly, that means that there's going to be always an empty quarter in every year for Guild Wars 2. Because there's 4 quarters and there's
unless they're gonna
follow-up patches.
Well, I think there's 3 follow-up patches, so I think they'll just loop round immediately.
There's 2.
Isn't
3?
Isn't there 3 follow-up patches?
It would be X-Pack 3 patches.
When did they say 3 follow-up patches?
Wait, it's quarterly. It's just quarterly releases. So it's once every 3 months, and then they just loop round into the expansion.
3 months, 6 months, 9 months.
I thought it was only 2 follow-up patches.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. It says 3 on the website, I think.
Okay, well, I'm corrected then.
There you go. Boom.
I think the main point is that they're just going to be releasing stuff. Now, the scope of that is to be determined. I'm very curious of what that actually means. These follow-up patches. How big will they be? How much content will be in them? Is it going to just be, hey, it's the tunnel, or half a map?
You'll get the Strike CM in one, you'll get the Fractal in one, and then
a Fractal CM.
Strike CM in the other.
And there'll be like half a map. They will not do the tunnel again. There will not be a release that is just a tunnel.
The tunnel will lead somewhere in the future releases.
Instead, it's just going to be one island, one extra island.
Look, we'll say it again, just to make sure everyone knows. The tunnel, I think I can say it without a shred of irony that the tunnel was one of the worst updates in the history of the game.
Yeah.
They will not do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, after the tunnel, the only way is up.
Historically, tunnels are well received.
In Guild Wars
Aside
2.
from that tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did the tier list.
Sneb, have you have you played the tunnel yet?
No. I
Say-
not played the tunnel.
I just want to give a massive congratulations to Nike and his operation. Like, Sneb barely plays the game now. Condor Dusk has completely won. It's over for Sneb.
I just only play the parts of the game that I like. And look, Teapot, you and I, we played the tunnel. And you, as is in your name, were mighty on the turtle.
Yep.
I manned the cannon.
Okay.
And I realized that there was literally nothing to do. And you...
Yeah.
You just guided me through the tunnel, and then we emerged, and I was like, wow, that's something.
I haven't actually done the tunnel. I have no interest in it. I watched people do it when the patch hit, and I laughed, and just I've never played it.
Yeah. And then you played the story, though, I believe.
I did the story.
Yeah, the boxes, the crates.
That was bad enough.
Yeah.
If I had done the tunnel, it might have been too much. It might have been an overdose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even gotten that far. I started the story, and then I just never did it after that. I probably will eventually do it. I just... I don't know what it is about
They haven't
it.
touched it yet either. They haven't done any update to it as far as I'm aware. Exactly. No, there's not going to, but I don't think they've changed anything about the
rewards, didn't they?
They did, but nothing about the actual event, I think.
Yeah, look, they never will touch it. The actual event, though, in my opinion, isn't very fun to play. It's sure it can be pretty rewarding, I guess, but I guess it depends what you're after. For me, I just can't stomach doing it, so I don't.
It's the worst meta in the game. I haven't done it since
by far as well, actually. By far.
And I was really worried. It really shook my faith a little bit because I was like, this, please God, don't be an indication of the quality of meta events going forward. So fingers crossed that the events in Secrets of the Obscure are nothing like the Turtle event.
Yeah. Honestly, the open world stuff I think is very important. Actually, it's kind of make or break. I think the things that I'm really looking for are, I think the strikes need to be good, and I want the open world maps to be good. Like, if those things are good, nice, we're in business.
By the way, the new fractal that's coming, is that dropping on the launch of the expansion?
No, it's coming later. It's coming follow-up patch.
Follow-up patch.
Yeah. And actually, but before we, that's a good thing to talk about here. How do we feel about the new fractal? And I kind of get the impression it's going to be fractals going forwards, because my read on it is that it's
5-man strikes.
Yeah. I don't know if you.
My thought too.
Yeah, 5-man strikes seem to be where we're going with this. The new fractal, just for context, it basically has a very short mini game, especially it's like a jumping puzzle style thing. But once you figure it out, right, you'll be able to do this very quickly and then immediately go to the boss. There's no trash events really, a few mobs you have to kill, but you will get to the end boss very, very quickly, and then the boss is the bulk of the fractal, obviously, right? So it looks like, and especially kind of thinking about Sunquar Peak, which the challenge mode just took you straight to the end boss. I think that's definitely going to happen on challenge mode with Silent Surf. And I almost get the feeling that this is the direction they want to go. They want to be a bit more, as much as I hate to say it, kind of cut a few corners of development to be able to make this content more reliably and move fractals into 5-player strike territory, which I'm not actually totally sure about that one. I think that there will be something lost if they go this direction, as I do think a big part of the kind of dungeon Guild Wars 2 content, as it were, is about the movement. It is about that almost platforming element that the Guild Wars 2 combat system tends to bring with it. And yeah, what do we think about that? That's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't like the new fractal. I thought the mini game I'm hoping the CM you can just go right to the boss, to do the jumping puzzle mini game. That would be a negative. But yeah, I didn't like it. I mean, I did it with pugs, and the boss has a lot of HP if people don't have good DPS and can't break the break bar. Pretty rough. But I think the CM will be better because the mechanics will actually be meaningful, and you'll have to actually do it correctly. So I kind of want to reserve judgment all the way until we see the CM, because as we all know with fractals, especially like these boss fractals, like the CM is the fractal. Like no one does Sunqua in normal mode. So
I mean, that's why I think they took the complaints about Sunqua and stuff very literally, like all the too much lead up towards the boss. But I feel like if CM, they just removed it. And then I feel like if the CM is going to skip you to the boss anyway, then it's okay for the normal stuff to have the fun novelty in between, you know, the trash mobs, the puzzle elements. And I do feel like that was really missing in the latest one. It really did feel like a 5-man strike. And I think that's a shame. I don't know. And also the grapple mechanic kind of sucks on high ping. It really not that not that great. It's weird because the final boss, you got to use the grapple to get to the platforms, right? The highest platform that the like mini boss spawns on, I find really awkward to get to. I don't know if it's like my ping or something, but like I'll grapple. You have to grapple because you can't zoom out enough. Yeah. You can't zoom out enough to put the grapple like on the platform. So you do it like right at the edge, and 75% of the time I'll just bonk right off and fall, and then I've ruined the mechanic. It's yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with the idea of like special action keys in these bosses. I think it's fun, novel, but the implementation needs to be a little smoother. I think it's not great on hype.
It's a bit gimmicky, yeah. It's a bit of a strange one. The fight itself is pretty cool. You know, I think it's all right. I'm definitely interested to see what happens on challenge mode, of course, and that will be very exciting to see how it works, and all that kind of good stuff. And yeah, obviously, it was no surprise that Kanaxai came back. Let's be honest, right? They really hinted at that, and it's a bit of a no-brainer, right? I think for all the Cantha fans out there, very exciting stuff. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see like how the community deals with this. I think that. Yeah, like I think they just took it maybe a little bit too literally. I think some lead up is fine. Sunqua though, and honestly, Shadow Observatory are too long. I think there's some legitimate criticism that when I see like Rec 25, I'm like, oh my god, no, please no, I'm not doing Rec 25, right? Same thing with like Shadow Observatory recommended fractal. It's like, oh god. Why does it take so long? It's so boring. But yeah, there's a happy middle ground, I'd say, rather than having to, just completely nuke it from orbit.
I think they needed a proper middle boss in this fractal. It was like just the final boss. I think there should have been some proper middle one that teaches some of the mechanics for Kanaxai. That would have been nice. Because man, doing it in pugs. I just ran it blind on tier 100, and like none of the mechanics apart from the grapple were like used in previous parts of the fractal. I think one of the sort of mini bosses teaches like the numbers thing, but it's literally just if you burn through that boss really quick, you don't even see the mechanic. And it's basically just a champion fight. It's not really a mini boss of any kind. So
I actually did not know that the number mechanic pops up there. I've never seen that on my runs.
It does. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I have not seen that. Yeah, because in my games it died instantly, so it does nothing.
Yep. What do you think of the actual mechanics though of the fight? You like them?
It's a lot of like AoEs that you don't stand in is pretty much it.
Yeah, it's fairly standard, fairly straightforward
for when he leaps to you.
Yeah. You have to make sure you dodge the leap attack and spread out there as well. I do like that it forces you to spread. I think that anything that kind of disrupts player positioning is very important for a Guild Wars 2 PvE fight, because when you're together, you're immortal, pretty much, right? Because of boons and healing and so on. So any fight that disrupts that, I think, is good to pushing that kind of design. I do like the eye mechanic as well. I think that's quite a nice. The implementation that's quite nice. You have to see where the hole is and like run into the gap right in the eye. I think that's actually a really nice, a pretty nice mechanic there. I think, but yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good practice.
There's room for the CM to be awesome.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, the CM. I hope they really went above and beyond for that one, and just went absolutely crazy for sure.
I think it's pretty easy to criticize that maybe the fractal wasn't that great. I think a lot of people didn't really like the beginning part that much. Personally, I wouldn't want to do that over and over and over again. I think it was kind of quirky and fun the first time around, but I don't want to do that puzzle every time. So like everyone else, I hope that the CM, you can skip that. However, I think I kind of see what they're trying to do with this fractal in particular by making it more like strikes. One thing that I've criticized the game for a lot in the past is that there's not a very good ramp. Everything is so siloed and so different than one another that it's very difficult for people to be like, okay, well, I do this, now my next step is this, and I'm slowly improving or getting better at the game. I think by making things more similar to each other, they sort of help with that a little bit. However, it doesn't quite feel correct either. I can't quite put my finger on it, but something about how this is done doesn't quite work, I think.
For me, it gives you a less diverse range of experiences. Because for me, Fractals was the dungeon experience for Guild Wars 2, and then Strikes are the Strikes. Strikes are just like the single boss thing, and I really couldn't shake the feeling during this Fractal. I was like, this should have just been a Strike. I don't understand, especially when it's like the subject matter is like it's underneath all the jade and it's demons or whatever. This would have tied in perfectly as like the final strike to Giala Delve. It's very strange to me as a fractal, because aren't fractals supposed to be like sort of alternate reality, like different timeline sort of thing? They're not usually
actually
set
the
in
past.
the current.
No, not necessarily.
No, this
yeah,
is the past.
it can be it's the past.
Okay.
Yeah, because
this is before Guild Wars 1.
Yeah,
because Canaxi's
it's like right after the Shiro's death, isn't it? Right? I believe
the first Shiro.
Shiro's first death. Yeah. Yeah, because it's just when the Jade Sea became Jade.
There's like a Luxon enemy faction in Guild Wars 1 called like the Nightmare Horde or something like that. That were like Luxons who went down and got corrupted by Canaxi, and then they come up to the surface and they're like evil dudes. Yeah, and that's the story of telling how they became evil dudes.
Yeah, it's the same as Thormanov Reactor, right? It's like a past event that's happening.
Right. And when you kill him, he doesn't actually die. He says he'll like come back.
Yeah,
is that alluding to like? Yeah, I mean, obviously you're not going to like
get rid of him. Yeah.
Do you reckon it's like the CM is going to be the final fight, or if he's going to return? Guild Wars stuff.
I think they'll do a phase 2. I really hope they do a phase 2, just like Sunquar Peak. I think that's one of the best things about that Fractal. But I don't think they'll kill him, no, because I mean the character doesn't die. We know that for absolute certain, because well, I mean not in the traditional sense, right?
He's got to be there in Guild Wars 1.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
right. Sure.
So like best case, it will be like you kind of banish him or something, right? Like it'll be like you be gone, foul fiend or whatever, right? And then he'll kind of have this scuffed death, but you can't actually get rid of him because that is the way the game works. It cannot be. Time has to be maintained so he can return for Guild Wars 1. So you have to go play Guild Wars 1 after the Fractal to get the final conclusion. Wait, actually, Nike, do you know lore-wise, do you actually kill him in the deep? What actually happened? What does that actually do?
I don't remember the dialogue.
Because you obviously kill him.
But
what happens?
Kill him. I don't remember the dialogue to see if he's like dead forever.
That's a good question, actually. Maybe one of the lore nerds can actually tell us in the chat right now. We'll see.
Yeah, nice. And there's a new infusion with the Fractal as well.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. It's a really cool infusion as well. I do think.
Oh yeah.
We still need to see infusions added to the wardrobe.
Yeah.
We do. Because if they're going to be using this as a key reward system, they've got to add it.
My thing is, you could. I'm just thinking in my head, can you? Because they like you can put them onto gear, but then you can also rip them off and sell them. So like.
You'd have to massively rework it. You'd have to completely rework how they work.
How the wardrobe works.
Dude, Jack, if you couldn't resell them, it would make the price of stuff like Chac egg sacs like so expensive because they're like a consumable at that point. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an issue though.
To separate that system, because to me it just seems so obvious that you'd want there to. I think it'd be good for the economy, and we've talked about this lots before, but I just don't understand why it isn't something they've already done. It must be such a massive, difficult rework that they just won't do it.
I think they've said even if I think if you contact support because you've accidentally unlocked a skin, they can't lock it again. So that's why I feel like it's just got to do with the wardrobe system spaghetti code. Like there's just no way that they can do that. I don't know.
It might be a bit. I mean, I think it is a major rework to a system, which is probably non-trivial. They'd also have to consider like what would that even mean, right? To do that, like they'd have to completely change the way the item works. They might even have to look at the infusion system. So I think it will be a major undertaking, but it's probably something that is on their radar, especially if they do plan on making infusions be like one of the very key cosmetic rewards that you can get from gameplay. So I think we'll see them attack that, but it probably won't be anytime soon because again, I think it's a pretty major rework to how the system would operate. They can make it work in PvP because right now it just doesn't work in PvP. Infusions don't work there at all.
Right.
So that would be something they could look at.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I want to ask you
yeah?
a question. It's kind of going back to the weapons thing, but
okay. Yeah, we're going
do you
back.
think that the weapons thing makes it easier for newer players or harder? So making it so that the elite specialization, the weapons are released essentially, and just adding all these new weapons. Do you think that that actually makes it more complicated?
More complicated.
Or easier?
I think it's more fun, but more complicated. I think a lot of players are like, oh man, I want to have a hammer on my mech, right? Like, whoa, that's so crazy. And now you can, right? But I think it is, I don't think it's that much harder actually. It's like a little bit, but yeah, it's a bit more complicated.
I think it was, when I talked to new players about it, they were a bit confused as to why, like, when you unlock an elite spec, you gain access to this weapon. You can only use it on this elite spec, but also you don't have to use it if you don't want to. You could use a different weapon, but you can still only use that weapon on that elite spec. I think it makes it a bit more like.
I guess that's a good point. Bit of give and take.
It makes it a bit more congruent with like Guild Wars 2's systems. Like you unlock this thing, and it's just a permanent account, like character wide unlock. So now it's, I don't know, a little more fluid. As soon as it's easier to explain. Once you unlock this elite spec, you can use that weapon on any elite spec or whatever. I think that's how it works, right? I don't know.
You know what I was thinking? I just thought, okay, well, it's probably confusing that when you unlock a weapon, you can't use it anywhere else, and you have to keep track of all of that stuff. But at the same time, by adding all of these new skills and all of these new weapons, you would think that that actually complicates the game even further. And it was alluded to before, but for PvP, this is just... I mean, PvP is already quite skillful and difficult to get into. Now you're adding a million new animations and skills and whatever. I have no idea how you can expect players to feel any level of confidence when they go into PvP or world versus world.
It's a big learning curve. I think that's why in a way, that's why they're not doing any more elite specs, right? Because that's even more insane, right? Because it's like entirely new class mechanics you have to deal with. But yeah, Guild Wars 2 is always going to have this problem. It's in competitive modes especially, it's going to be intense to learn. It's going to take you a while to pick it up. But you know, you got to do your best. You got to get in there.
People have asked in chat, and it's something I haven't thought about. If someone only has Soto, do they get the elite weapons if they unlock weapons training? So do you unlock
I believe so, yes.
Hammer?
Yeah, I believe you do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is an expansion. This is a Soto expansion feature. Yeah.
Cool.
And you can do that with elite. Cool. Yeah, you can do that with all the elite spec weapons, even if you don't own that spec. Of course, you can't get the elite spec unless you own the other expansions.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Like, if you're going from core game, if you've not bought any of the expansions and you just buy Secrets of the Obscure, you effectively just unlocked like 3 new weapons for yourself.
Yeah.
Potentially 4 after the second patch. That's cool.
Yeah. As one final aside, because I want to talk about the balance patch a little bit after this to kind of round out the TeaTime. But before we do that, this is kind of like another new player thing that I want to talk about. Do you think there's going to be a bit of a way into the expansion that just says, you know what? You're a new player. You get a boost with the standard edition, by the way. Boost and play the most recent content. Because I know a lot of... That is a dirty word in the Guild Wars 2 community. People hate it when you do this. But you know what? I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. A whole bunch of players, they want to get in, they want to boost, and they want to play the latest content that just released. They don't want to be killing bandits in Queensdale. They want to be riding the Skyscale, getting into the mix, playing the latest content with their friends, right, and everyone who they've heard about the game from. And I'm really curious if they're going to try and lean into this and really make the story make sense from a total new player perspective, going into the expansion without having played the Dragon Saga, and also kind of like a gameplay experience that leads you in to the expansion immediately when you first purchase the game. Like, I wonder if they're going to go in that direction. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's exactly what they're going to do because, this is the perfect time for a new player.
Right.
Yes.
Now. Yes. Start buying the skins. God damn it, buy the skins.
But I just think because it is a brand new story arc, it's like the perfect jumping in point for new players who don't want to play the entire Dragon Saga. Like this is totally fresh, it's good, and I'm hoping there's like a little. I hope they do the End of Dragons training ground thing as well. They have that somewhere, you know. Good stuff.
I'm
Sneb,
not
you
quite
look
getting
at
what you mean exactly. I'm confused because you could just do an 80 boost and get into EOD or anything.
This is a very
specifically do you mean?
self-contained story that doesn't require you to have any prior knowledge of anything. So you could literally be a brand new player to Guild Wars 2 and do the expansion without having any world knowledge of what came on before. Like, I doubt they'll even use the word Arene or anything in the expansion.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah, it's more of like a thing that exists on its own, and you don't have to play through like multiple expansions and seasons of setup in order to understand like who all the characters are.
It's not about boosting per se, like getting gear or skill or elite spec or whatever. It's more so that it's just a standalone thing that allows people to immediately jump in and understand what's going on.
Well,
you do make a good point that there needs to be some sort of
gameplay lead
for gear acquisition. Yeah, but there needs to be some sort of form of like gear acquisition in this expansion that's kind of self-contained and that you don't need to go outside the expansions for.
That's
which
what
is
the Wizard's Vault is for, right?
Yeah, the
Maybe
Vault.
They'll have ascended
The
gear.
Rifts will probably
Potentially,
have.
That would be huge.
Maybe.
And they'll probably have like stat selectable exotic stuff. That's just very standard. Maybe that will be the Vault stuff. As you can get. Do
you think they'll learn their lesson and just make everything stat selectable?
Honestly, you say that they're learning their lesson, but it's yes and no. I think what okay, to refine what you said there a little bit, I feel like, oh man, dude, I wonder if people would actually be mad about this. They should just make all of the gear Celestial, Berserker, Viper, Ritualist, okay? And just, that's what you get to pick from, right? You just bite the bullet, ArenaNet, okay? Because do you know what the issue with stat selectable is that people can pick worthless stats, okay? And you know that, Sneb. You've pugged, okay? You've been in the open world.
I know.
Yeah.
I actually would make an amendment to your statement there. I would say the biggest problem is actually that there are too many choices, and
exactly. Yeah, they're dog shit.
People don't understand what to choose, and so I imagine people sometimes just choose nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just remove.
Even worse than picking a bad stat is picking no stat.
Yeah,
I think that's probably a choice that's made.
So yeah, prune the choices. Yeah, and yeah, obviously like include Harrier and Minstrel. And you know what? I think it would be really cool if they actually had like tooltips for those stats. Like, oh yeah, Harrier is if you're a healer. You know, like Viper is if you're a condition, right? Like Berserker is for power
I am not
damage.
a condition.
Yeah.
Well, but they kind of did that before, right? Well, and kind of poorly executed. But when you get a drop from raids, what are the words? There's like 4 different words: assaulters, malicious, whatever that is, right? So they're trying to sort of guide you into what it's themed for, but they still give you a million choices in that, right? So I don't know. I just, the complaint that I see most often, which may actually not even be the main complaint, because I'm sure there's a big silent majority or silent group of people who quit the game after 20 levels because they just don't quite get the gear system. They don't understand it. But the most vocal majority often says, well, how come I can't get a ritualist piece of armor by doing X? Or why is it that it's so difficult or so just challenging to figure out where to get what stats? If everything was just stat selectable, it would solve that. But at the same time, I understand that it would sort of take away from, you know, having some kind of unique reward from certain content, I guess. But
that's the thing, is I feel like they haven't leaned into either route. They haven't fully opened it up, but they also don't. It's not like specific enough, you know, like because you could. I think before, like you could only get Harrier gear from, you know, Path of Fire or whatever, but now you can sort of get it in other areas of the game. So it's not like specific enough that you can be like, well, you play Path of Fire for Harrier gear. It's like, well, you can play Path of Fire, but also there's all these other sources, and it's just, I don't know, it's weird.
I think the key is just cutting the amount of choices and helping the player understand what those choices actually do. For example, I would love it if when a stat has concentration on it, it should show you how much boon duration that is. So, like, if an item has, 30 concentration, it should say 2% boon duration. Same with expertise.
Why even have 2 words?
Well, what do you mean?
Why have 2 words for the same thing?
Because they did this thing where one stat feeds into another value. They're like, oh yeah, you have ferocity, and that gives you critical strike damage.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, same thing with
it is
expertise.
easy. It's way easier to balance if concentration and ferocity are like concentration and ferocity rather than like a number. Because like going from like 2% boon duration to 1% boon duration on a piece of gear is a big nerf.
Yeah,
but going
so it has
from,
to. You have to need more refinement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why. So I think that basically clearly labeling that and giving players a few less options, because let's be honest, there are definitely some niche stats. I'm not saying we should like remove all niche stats from the game, but there are just some stats that suck. Okay, I think we can all agree on that, and they're just bad. And there are so many noob traps in the game. Actually, this is one of my major complaints. I really hope they address this. One of them that kind of enrages me. This one is insane. This one is so insane. I just love it. So there's a gobbler in World vs. World. And by the way, World vs. World is full of noob traps. Holy shit, it's so bad. But there's a gobbler that you can buy that allows you to feed memories of battle into it. And it eats like 50 in one go or something like ridiculous like that. And you can basically feed it like 50 gold of stuff and get literally unironically nothing out. Okay? Like,
I love that.
It is so bad. Wait, I'm actually going to look it up just to... Like,
we need a Mystic Clover Gobbler.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gives you, like, legit trash.
Yeah.
Like...
Oh my god.
Go into your bank
I found it.
And take stuff.
It eats 50 memories of battle. And by the way, to buy this, it costs 350 tickets and 250 memories. And it gives you timeless bags of goods, guys. And look at what you get out. You literally get a piece of green gear or rare, and then 2 pieces of junk.
Nice.
And by the way, like I want to be clear about this, guys. This is the most extreme example, but World vs. World is full of this stuff. And actually, not just World vs. World, okay? The entire game is full of stuff that if you're a new player, you will get baited and you will just get completely owned by the game in so many ways. It's like, oh no. It needs a bit of a cleanup, I think, when it comes to like some of these things. It is so bad. Oh man, that item should just be deleted from the game, like straight up. It's awful.
Well, to drag the train back onto the
tracks.
track.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I'm like
patch?
literally getting blinded by the sun. Yeah, you wanted to talk about the balance patch.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
Oof, it's a controversial one. Like, definitely mixed. And you know what? I will be the boring. I'm going to be the boring moderate here. There are definitely some misses in the patch. I think some things are really good.
Oh, come on. You're being so tame. There misses. It's like you were aiming at a target and you shot backward behind you, and the guy instructing you how to shoot.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you main Scrapper and Druid, so you got actually just obliterated, okay?
Yeah,
so,
I logged in and I was like, oh, well, I guess Druid isn't that good right now. I'll just go play my Scrapper. And then I logged into Scrapper and I was like, well, I better log out, I guess. Wait for July 18th.
Yeah.
I did sort of feel that way with, I mean, it's just a bug, but the Spellbreaker Breaching Strike bug.
Oh,
like it does noodle damage now, so I'm just like, well, Berserker sucks. Bladesworn, I guess I can play that, but it's not great. And Spellbreaker was what I liked. It was like the thing that I was having most fun with, and can't really play that either yet. So I guess I'm playing other classes for a month or so.
Yeah. Well, I'm playing Revenant, and as I said before, the podcast went live. I like Revenant now. I think the changes are good. That's all.
Yeah.
I think
that's a hot take. People do not like Rev. Yeah, I agree with
when the July patch happens. It's gonna be good.
Everyone's talking. Yeah. I feel like I see everyone in Snow Crows or whatever. Everyone's talking about how busted Revenant is now, and so it seems, I don't know.
Well, Greatsword DPS Herald looks real juicy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think as you were alluding to, Nike, you were talking about how you feel like a lot of these changes are preemptive before the expansion where we get the cross elite spec weapon stuff, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, I think that's
especially with Scrapper, with Mace, with the mech Mace for sure.
Yeah.
They're definitely leaning at that. I think the patch overall, it really was like the foundation patch. So like we're gonna make every build exist, and then some of them are gonna suck, some of them are gonna be really broken, and then we'll fix them later pretty much. I think the really big takeaway though is the iterative approach. For example, I think they're really targeting fixing some of the pain points with Herald in the upcoming patch at the end of July. And I think that we'll all find that with that patch and maybe a few more tweaks after that, Herald is probably going to be doing just fine. And I think you'll actually have a bit more flexibility with being in different legends, right? You aren't going to have so much like perma swapping just to get back to Glint for the quickness. You'll be able to linger in your Jalis, in your Shiro for a bit longer. If you need to, you'll be able to, use something else. So I think they will have actually succeeded with Herald after they've kind of polished it up, right? Because right now there are definitely some major issues. Like, the quickness sometimes, takes 3 seconds to apply, and that's bad. And you are very energy starved, but it's fixable. I don't think it's like inherently ruined. Something like Druid, they kind of tried to fix the issue with Druid, but they made it worse. It's very interesting. Like you would spam your spirits for alacrity, but now you have to spam glyphs for protection, CA for might, pet swap for might, and also pet ability for protection. It's like, oh, okay, we've made it worse by accident here. So they're gonna have to go back to the drawing board, in my opinion, in that regard. But yeah, I think stuff like
Druid into a zookeeper role play, and I'm not into it.
Some stuff like Spectre, for example, I think worked out very well.
Yeah,
that's the good news.
As speaking as like a total semi-casual, like performance aside,
okay,
I really hated the utility spam stuff. Like, I cannot quite overstate how much I hated it. Like, so many of these boon builds played almost the exact same in terms of just spamming those utilities, and I despised it. And I think even scuffed Druid right now on premise is better than Spirit.
Is it though?
In my opinion, that's what I think.
Wait,
I don't know.
What did you just say?
You gotta work harder.
I said it's come to Australia. You can beat me up.
Are you kidding me? You
I'm
actually
serious.
think that
I think
Druid
Dude,
is
Sneb
better
is
now?
mad. Guys, Sneb is mad.
No.
He's going
I'm
crazy.
mad.
No, wait.
He's mad.
That is
Performance,
ridiculous.
No. Like disregarding performance, like actual performance, I think, like on premise, like fundamentally, using all those different elements to upkeep your boons is more interesting than the spirit spam. That's what I think. Like, it's more interesting gameplay wise.
If by interesting you
disregarding
mean you press more buttons, then sure. But if
I just think there's more more synergy there within the spec than before, where it was just lame. It's like I don't know.
Yeah,
it's obviously not there yet. But that's
the problem with it in its current iteration is that by putting alacrity in CA the way that they've done it, and by having the recharge so low, I think it'll be better July 18th. But the way it is right now, it forces you to go into CA so often that you almost don't get to use CA to heal properly.
Right.
And if you do, then you have to do it almost perfectly with the timing, which makes the skill ceiling, I believe, even higher.
Yes.
So maybe the skill floor even higher, rather. Both. Yeah, you just elevated the house into the sky for Druid.
yeah. I don't think putting it onto like having to spam CA off cooldown is now the solution. I think that's
spamming CA off cooldown is how you're supposed to play it.
Right. I mean, that's how I was playing Druid, but I still feel like attaching it to something that's a bit more conditional than just the elite spec mechanic is more interesting. Like my other hot take is that I think Scrapper's change, where you give the boon from the combo fields, is way more interesting and engaging and interactive than spamming.
The concept is good, but right now it isn't finely tuned enough to make it fun to play.
Sure, fair enough.
In my opinion,
I can agree, but I think I am more optimistic about when the concept is good, over the actual like reality of it right now. The concept
Wait,
before of spam utilities sucked.
Wait. Everybody in the chat that's saying you always did say it on cooldown, then you were bad at Druid.
No, I think
All right,
you
I'm just
might be
gonna
the
say
one
it.
who's wrong about that.
No. But you didn't do it on cooldown. You didn't need to.
I mean,
I
watch a Druid in a record run, and you'll see that they go into CA on cooldown.
It's not quite on cooldown, right? What I'm trying to get at is you have to do it exactly on cooldown, pretty much, with the way that Alacrity is right now. But with Might before, you had other things that gave Might, and Might was more plentiful in your subgroup, so you had more margin for error. You could go into CA, spam a bunch of Might, but oh, guess what? Frost Spirit's given Might. Oh, guess what? Warhorn 5's given some Might. Oh, guess what? You've got a Herald in your subgroup that's providing a bunch of Might too. Or a Scourge, or whatever. And so it didn't really matter as much, and you could save your CA for times when you knew that the Condi was going to come. You had way more margin for error. Now, you're like, oh crap, the Alacrity is getting low. I have no choice but to go in CA. There are no other options to give Alacrity in my subgroup. I am it. So you have to do it. It's about being able to have choice, and that's what I dislike about it. You are it. You are the only thing, and the thing that gives Alac also is a big heal, and it also has break bar and stuff. I don't know. I just think it's really weird how it is now.
Sure. I can agree with that. Like I don't like it being.
I think the tuning is definitely off. They are addressing that. The Alacrity duration is going up a lot.
Though, so I'm happy with that. Yeah, I agree. Like July 18th, that's probably fixed, and there won't be near as much pressure as there is now. Yeah.
It'll definitely be pretty good. And hey, DPS Druid's a big win. I think this is one thing. This is the problem with patches. I really feel for ArenaNet on this. Because this is what I'm talking about. Like, ooh, Quickness Deadeye is pretty hype. Alac Spectre is pretty hype now. DPS Druid is pretty good. Alac DPS Tempest is also really exciting. DPS Firebrand, I think, is very exciting too. Like, Heal Firebrand got buffed for some reason. Not sure about that one. Mech is a lot more active. Like, this is always the problem with balance patches, is that when you need to be always really careful as ArenaNet to make sure that you try to get everything right as much as possible, because otherwise everything that goes wrong overshadows everything that was really cool. And by the way, this is not even about balance patches, guys. When Harvest Temple CM released, this is like a really cool event for the game, but HTCM actually got overshadowed by the by the patch from He Who Must Not Be Named, right? Like destroying banners, right? Like you've got to be really careful about this stuff as from ANET's POV. They made PvP worse this patch too, by the way, guys. Signet Catalyst is here, and it is ruining PvP. Nice.
Yeah, it is pretty bad.
So what I was going to say is, we've mentioned it before, but like ANET has like this mandate that every class has to get something every balance patch. Like even if like it's like Warrior didn't get very much. It didn't get touched too much. I mean, you got Alacrity Bladesworn, but like they put a lot of their resources into other things. Like Druid got a lot more stuff. But it would have just been better to not touch Warrior whatsoever and use that extra time to polish Druid. And maybe you don't touch Revenant at all this patch, and you put that extra time into Necro, so that so that these things ship in a more polished state, and then the July patch is like the other classes that didn't get touched this time, and they can ship in a polished state. So you're shipping two good patches instead of one kind of like 75% patch and then a cleanup at the end. But the problem with that is the people who are like, wow, balance patch came out and there wasn't a single change for my profession. This isn't fair. Why does ANET hate? Insert my profession here.
Yeah.
So I understand why they do that, but at the same time, I think it's probably not super healthy for the game to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. They're a bit down if they do, down if they don't, right? Because right now they definitely went for like, right, let's make a bunch of stuff and see what happens. And of course, then you do sacrifice some of that polish, right? Whereas if they don't touch anything, they go, you didn't change a lack Willbender. And they did actually next patch.
Yeah.
Wait, that's next patch, right? I think.
That's next patch.
It's next patch, yeah. And now they actually are changing it, right? But I think I do think we should give ArenaNet a lot of credit for the fact that they are being very iterative. Again, I think a lot of the outcry about this patch is mostly because people are still in old Guild Wars 2 mode, where, oh yeah, your build is in the shitter. Good news, it'll be like that for 9 months. Have fun. Whereas I think that's not the case now. I think ArenaNet and CMC is totally willing to say, oh yeah, we'll actually revert that. And then we'll try again in 3 months. Or, hey, the next 3 months, we're going to completely rework this and we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
So I think that's
I was
pretty
going
good.
to say, there was definitely some weird shit in this patch, but I didn't take it so, I didn't take it so offensively because I was like, obviously it's not going to stay this way because it's absolute garbage and everyone's complaining about it. So I was just like, I don't know. I was satisfied.
Just gotta
enough
wait
with this
16 more days, and then
then your build's
right.
Yeah. So
Isn't it
Oh, yeah.
okay? Wait.
Yeah,
Before we
wait.
move on,
Okay.
isn't it kind of weird that? How do I put this? Isn't it kind of weird that they put the balance patch and they're like, yeah, we have to fix it in 2 weeks? Why didn't they just wait to put in the balance patch for 2 weeks?
Well, because I think they wanted to test the waters a bit. Maybe it didn't need fixing.
Okay, well, okay. I guess some of it seemed like it was a little bit obvious, but maybe it wasn't.
I don't know. Maybe some on paper seemed fine until because
Well, because
I don't think I was on holiday when the balance patch preview notes came out, and I don't remember what people were saying at that point.
I think there were some numbers that were omitted, so people didn't really know, right? So when when Druid came out, I actually expected that Druid was going to be way more powerful, and then when it came out, it was like, whoa, this is not quite what I thought it was going to be. So I think that's why
they got to release it, right? They got to release it to try it out.
I think the concerns aren't about power level; they're about playability, no? Because I wouldn't say that I think Druid is extremely powerful. It's just less playable. That's the issue, right?
Yes.
Like, that's the problem.
It just feels bad to play now with kind of everything that you have to do, right?
It's not that it's
very
bad.
Spammy. Yeah, you have to rotate through your skills, so it's more prescribed, I would say.
Yeah, which is the
I don't know. Do you feel like it wasn't? I feel like they've just sort of swapped. Like it was spammy before with the spirits, and now it's just spammy with the CA. But now your utilities are freed up, are they not?
Well, kind of,
yeah.
Kind of.
You have to use all of your utilities and pets to generate all of the boons now. So rather than just spamming all of your spirits to get all the boons, now you have to spam like every skill you have and your pets.
Sure. But not Alack, right? Alack's just on the CA. You're talking about
Alack,
like that sort of thing.
Yes. To get Alack, you have to go into CA and spam basically all the skills in a particular order to maximize it. And then after that, you can kind of maintain it by going in and out. But right now, it's a little bit tight. It's not completely horrendous. Like, it's doable. But I think for the average player, it kind of kills the playability.
Okay. Fair enough.
And that's kind of the issue. Yeah, it's always concerns about playability. Not
for me, it was always about like I just want the utilities to be freed up so that you can use them situationally. And it sounds like with Druid, they've kind of just moved that onto. A few
patches down the line, we'll get there. In that regard,
sure.
They're close.
Yeah, it'll take it. Yeah, we're getting there.
They went off the path to pick some berries a little bit, and then smushed some of them in their hands. Now they have to go wash their hands to get back on the path.
Yeah, because before I thought they weren't on that path at all, because there was a while there where they were just doing that with every boon spec, and they were like, you can all spam utilities now, and I was like, no, this is not the direction to go. And so it seems like they're walking down another path now.
Yeah. Nike, how do you feel about Berserker F1?
It's it's 1/3 as fun as it used to be, according to the.
Would you say that there is no reason? Was it the only ability that made you feel like a warrior?
I mean, there's a lot of people who feel that Arc Divider is their identity. They identify as an Arc Divider. They are not. I've seen people that are like, I'm not buying the expansion until you fix Arc Divider. I'm not like there was a point. And it might still be the case where if you go to the Warrior subforum on the official forums, every post on the front page is about Arc Divider. And it's just insanely over the top. Like, I can't condemn these people enough. It makes no sense to me why they're so attached to this thing hitting 3 times versus 1 time. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, sure, would the right thing to do have been to just cut off the aftercast and keep it at 3? Would that have been easier for everyone? Yeah, probably, but I don't understand the outrage. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I cannot even I can't put myself in their shoes. Because I put myself in their shoes and I go, what's the big deal? And so it's impossible to empathize with them on that. Yeah.
It's very interesting, actually, to see this. Because I think a lot of players have looked at some of this stuff, and there's this homogenization talk that always gets brought up, right? It's this idea that, oh, they're giving boons to everything, so you're losing your class identity. I think, no, right? Like, this is
class identity shouldn't have been a boon in the first place.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a boon.
Been how it plays.
Like the play style, yeah, like how the abilities work, how you actually go about giving those boons, how you heal, how you do damage. Are you bursty? Do you have AoE? Right? Like, you know, what kind of skills? What do your animations look like? Right? Like, do you have a special like utility, like a super speed buff on Scrapper or something like that? Can you revive allies? Do you give barrier? Like, that's what your class identity like ultimately is. I think it's very interesting that players have kind of zoned in on this, because I think that's really not what's going on here whatsoever.
Like, it's the opposite. When we had all the utility spam stuff, that to me was class homogenization. Like, they were all very samey, and now we're kind of moving well away from that, I think. Because, like, the combo field blasting that you're doing in Scrapper, I don't know, you're not really doing the same thing in, like, I don't know, Herald to give quickness. It's very different.
Yeah, it's completely different. And I think that isn't what's happening. Ultimately, I think that, again, you know, we live in this like really unusual position, actually, in Guild Wars 2, where there are more options than ever before, right? And they're adding more things, and the game is better balanced than ever. But it seems that like people are almost like less happy with the balance than they've ever been, right? It's very strange.
It's weird.
Yeah, I've had people unironically say, I want to go back to HOT. You know, I want to go back to running 4 Tempests, double Chrono, double Warrior, on double Druid on every single boss, right? It's like, what is going on here? It's crazy.
I will once again go on the record as saying that this is a very big problem for squad organization, because I cannot inspect anything, and if every single class can provide boons and do stuff, then when I just look at a squad right now, I have absolutely no idea what people are playing, and this forces me to get them to talk.
Yeah, look, you're getting the social experience you want.
I actually, maybe this is a me problem, and I will accept if it is.
What if you found out you can inspect people's gear and still not know what build they were playing?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
What about that?
This problem is actually inhibiting me from wanting to make groups and tag up, because it is so annoying to have to decipher what people are doing and playing constantly.
Maybe I don't play enough, but it's never bothered me. I'm gonna be honest. Like I make a group, I ask people, I lack quickness, whatever, they respond, and I've literally never had this problem. I've never gotten frustrated. They're like, I don't know what he's playing. I don't know if he's playing quickness or a lack. I don't know.
Well, it's that you go in and somebody says that they're a lack, and they're like, oh well, I thought this other person was a lack because they're playing this, and like, well, you're playing this. I thought you were a lack, and then there's no a lack. And it's just like constant. Everybody assumes everybody else is gonna do it now. Whereas before it was like, all right, you're Revenant, like you're Renegade, you're the only one who's providing a lack here. So yeah, it's you. But right now, it's good, and it's a blessing and a curse. Like, I obviously really like that there's flexibility, but that because the systems that allow you to make groups in the game have not changed alongside this, it is extreme pressure on people making groups to organize and to keep track of what people are playing, especially if you're playing in more optimized pug groups where people are swapping classes and stuff based on what boss you're fighting. That's when things get really complicated, and you're having to constantly check and recheck what people are playing. I don't like it. There's got to be something in the
Guild
game
Wars
that'll
2.
eventually help you to do that.
It's Guild Wars 2, man. It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but that's how it goes. And to kind of like briefly address something, I know that a lot of the complaints are about playability, but like I actually have to push back just a teeny bit against the community here. People in the Guild Wars 2 community are extremely resistant to any kind of change, and even if a build changes, they'll go, even if it's a good change or like a fun rework, they'll go, it's complete garbage, I hate it. Right? Like, this is just the kind of like one thing that happens. It happens in all MMOs, I'm not gonna lie, but it happens in Guild Wars 2 a lot. Like, for example, I actually really like the Firebrand changes a lot. I think they're really good. But people say I hate them and they're absolute trash. And I kind of also feel this way about Herald. I think that especially when some of the creases get ironed out with the next update, I think Herald's actually going to be a lot of fun to play. Maybe more. In fact, I think it will be more fun to play because you're going to have a lot more flexibility with your second legend and using those abilities accordingly, as opposed to kind of having like a bit of a clock on how long you can stay in that second legend. There's a lot of potential there, I think. Ultimately, I think once Druid gets ironed out, I think it will be different, but I think it can be more flexible and more fun to play. I think this is true with a lot of the the improvements and a lot of the changes that have been happening. So I'm not saying that everything they do is perfect. In fact, I completely disagree with that statement. There's definitely been some pretty major mistakes, but I really would encourage everyone to be open to change and open to builds working differently in such a way that's healthier for the game overall and enables the balance to be created within the game.
I think a lot of playability concerns, I know that it's not performance and it's not power level when people say playability, but I think performance and power level alleviate playability issues. Things that suck when you have to play perfectly in order to do your role, like you have exactly enough alacrity if you play perfectly to get 100%, then that creates a playability issue. Whereas if you could get like 130% uptime, then the playability issues become a lot
less relevant.
Easier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that is where the tuning patches come in. That's where the iteration really comes into play, right? Which is pretty good. Pretty good, I think, anyway.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I'm kind of willing to bite the bullet and say, hey, we're just sacrificing now because later things are gonna, they have to iron some things out now before they unleash all the weapons and add a bunch of new weapons. So there's gonna be a lot of volatility as they figure this out. And it's pain and suffering, but it's sort of requisite to have this so that it'll get better later.
Because even if this was the perfect balance patch, we've got an expansion in 2 months that's going to throw everything out of the loop. So we do it all over again. So
yeah, it's kind of like, what's the point? Because it's all going to shift as soon as weapons are unleashed, right?
It's going to be all NGs. It's going to be Mace, Scrapper, Mace, Alakmech, and Hammer, Hollow, and that's going to be every group for every content. Deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is going to be a little bit of chaos, but I also do have to point out something here that's really uncomfortable. It's really hard for ArenaNet to nerf stuff. And do you know what's really tough, guys? Is that right now, we're living in this super weird world where every build basically has to measure up to Mech and Firebrand. And that's actually really difficult without just making everything insanely broken. So... And honestly, Herald was in this position as well, by the way. Quickness Herald in particular. It was like an insane amount of boon output and an insane amount of damage. If you don't remove that, if you don't reduce that, then the game is just going to power creep more and more and more and more and more, which honestly isn't really fun for anyone. And look, most raid content, guys, a lot of old content, has already been massively invalidated, essentially, by power creep. Like, stuff like, especially raids, they're so much easier than they used to be because of power creep. Fractals is the same. Like, massive power creep has, like, destroyed the integrity and the challenge of Fractals completely. And at some point, ArenaNet is probably going to have to nerf this stuff, right? Like, and this is an issue for them because, one, obviously, people aren't going to be happy about it. But secondly, it makes the game harder, which is honest, it really sucks, right? Like, if you're a player and you've just beaten something and then you find yourself struggling a lot more because the game has essentially got harder,
anything.
it's going to be difficult, right? It's going to be a difficult one. Because right now, there are just these like massive oppressive forces in the meta. Like Firebrand and Mech are just so oppressive, like with the way that they operate and like what they can actually do and the way they can bring to the table. And I mean, this is something that you pointed out, Nike, recently on Twitter, and I think it's a really good point. One of the reasons why Mech and Firebrand are so good and why other supports struggle with them is they have like 50 buttons, right? But that's not good, right? Because that's really tough for players to actually learn and engage with. Right? Like, Mechanist has 3 kits, full weapon set, extra utility skills, and mech skills. Firebrand has 2 weapon sets, utilities, and 3 extra kits, basically, attached to it, right? Has so many buttons. And because it has so many buttons, one, it's actually kind of easy for ArenaNet to play with it a little bit and like tweak things. But secondly, it means that it just has so many skills that it's situationally brilliant all the time, right? It's the same with Mech. Like, there aren't many situations where Mech is just not good. Same with Firebrand. Like, Firebrand is always good, pretty much. And a big part of that is because it has so many skills. And anything that doesn't have that many skills is always going to be like brittle in comparison. Like, you end up with Druid, right? Because Druid doesn't have as many buttons as these other classes, and it has worse access to those buttons as well. And because of that design principles, Firebrand always has its buttons, Mech always has its buttons. It's actually really hard because you end up tacking on boons to kind of weird things on Druid to kind of make it work. And the insanely overpowered design, and this is a weird one, by the way, of kits, by the way, are kind of inherently insane. And also of Firebrand and Mechanist in general, just causes really big playability issues when you have such high standards. Because this is the problem. The standard is you must, if you're a healer, you need to be able to do permanent protection, permanent 25 might, perma regeneration, perma swiftness, perma quickness or alacrity, right? Perma fury. If you can't do that, you suck. And they have to find a way to put all of those boons on all the buttons for these classes. And this is this is where you're at bedrock. The fact that Mech always has access to 1 million buttons and Firebrand always has access to 1 million buttons means that the playability of Mech and Firebrand will always be light years ahead of other professions because they do not have that. Does that, I'm not talking nonsense, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's an issue.
Delete quickness
the
and alacrity.
pages was like the solution that they wanted, right? Like they wanted the pages to limit your access to the buttons, but there's nothing like that for Mech. And they're already starting to power creep by giving you extra pages.
It's really good as well. That trait is insane.
So why not? They could tighten the pages. In fact, if anything, they should give you less pages. Like that should be the dial that they turn a little bit on Firebrand. As far as Mech, I don't know what they can do about that, but
yeah. I think the God Emperor is a tough foe to defeat, Nike. You know, it's so CMC is doing his best to battle the Mech, but honestly, the Emperor might defeat CMC. It's possible. You know, I wouldn't count it out. But
yeah, I have a fundamental problem with how boons work at the moment in Guild Wars 2. I wish they were all way shorter duration and way less effective, and they were just like an extra little spicy thing that you do, not like whole gameplay revolving around keeping up boons. I don't know.
Yeah. The button thing is not working with Ellie. Funnily enough, it actually is. Well, kind of. The thing is, with Elementalist, the button thing is really strong. The button thing is really strong there. But the problem is that most of the skills don't do anything because Ellie mains wanted to do DPS, so they removed all the utility. It's just not a very good deal, to be honest. And honestly, stuff like Tempest, one of the reasons why Tempest was so dominant is because you had so many buttons and they did loads of things, which is, you know, yeah, that's it. That's all I've got to say.
I would like to give a quick economic update.
Okay. Where are we on Flame Legion runes?
34 silver selling. Buy orders are at around 1750.
Let's go.
Huge. It's actually big. And yeah,
if you guys weren't here earlier in the stream, we basically said that Flame Legion runes are a really good investment, and you definitely need to have a very large position on them going into.
You need to buy now. Buy now.
Because you know when they get converted to relics, oh yes, it's going to be a lot of stacks of Flame Legion relics, and they're gonna be good. So
yeah, I think you're very correct about your analysis on boons. By the way, Bloom, and even though I view your take as objectively correct, and I don't know if you saw Preach's take on this as well when he tried the game.
Yes.
He actually felt, I think, similarly regarding the boon system. The genie's out of the bottle, right? Is perma quickness healthy for the game? Absolutely not. Is perma alacrity good for the game? Absolutely not. And I'll go even further. I think permanent any boon is probably unhealthy for the game. You know, I'll give you swiftness maybe. You could maybe have fury as well, because like inconsistent crits is kind of like, oh, bleh, right?
I think. Oh, okay. No, never mind. I'm gonna keep that take to myself.
Oh no! Honestly, look, if you want to fully bite the bullet, honestly, I will do it.
100% crit chance is yucky as well. Like this is the only game I play where you can get 100% crit chance.
Honestly, like stuff like that, it's so important. I actually find it really icky. For example, I'm playing WoW right now, and the fact that I have like a 60% chance to block on my paladin, it's so dumb. Like I have like a tank buster being fired at me, and sometimes I take like 0 damage, and sometimes I just take significantly more, just like arbitrarily, basically. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm actually not a huge fan of kind of important, impactful mechanics being tied to RNG. I don't like it, to be honest. I'm not in favor of that. But honestly, I'll bite the boon bullet on pretty much everything. To be honest, perma boons is a huge mistake. But I'll tell you, unfortunately, it's too late.
It's a Guild Wars 3 issue to work out, not a Guild Wars 2 at this point.
What do you think about all the people on social media complaining about things? Well, in particular, that there's kind of no point in having alacrity and quickness anymore. If you always have to play for them to be 100%, what's the point in even having them as boons? The point
is a team building constraint, which creates theorycraft and gives more roles and lets people roleplay a little bit. So it has several positive things that people aren't considering.
For sure, I guess it definitely mixes up your
If we just had 10 DPS players or like 8 DPS players and 2 healers, it would just it would be just that much more boring, and would give people that much less sort of freedom to be something else.
Yeah, and it also kind of, and this is also a weird thing to think about. It's also just an arbitrary skill test, and ultimately, video games have these things. Is that they want to give you a way to express your goodness at the game, pretty much. And boon uptime, DPS rotations, healing, like, you know, knowing how to heal and healing effectively, it's just an arbitrary skill check. And it's weird, but this is kind of what video games are in a way. Video games are, any kind of interactive media is going to have like some characteristic of this about it. And it's the same thing with Guild Wars 2, right? Like, how fast can you press your buttons? That's just, it's one of the things that the game is going to say, hey, if you want to beat this boss, then you need to press your buttons this fast, right? Like, it is what
There's a lot of things like this in ARPGs, like in Diablo or Path of Exile, where it's like, you have to get to this number of elemental resistance, or else you're just going to get clapped constantly. But once you get to this number, you never have to like think about it. It's just like a checklist that you have to accomplish.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things like that. And they do it because otherwise every choice you make is DPS, 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 and you never have to think about compromising. And so they're just creating compromises.
I think especially if you don't have Boon Table or Arc DPS installed, that stuff feels super arbitrary. But if you can track it, it feels kind of nice to get 100% uptime. You know, you've got something to work towards. But without that, it kind of feels a little weird to play those roles. You know, you're just kind of guessing.
That's a good argument as well there, actually, or a good kind of side point there, is that it does give a player a measure of their performance, which Guild Wars 2 is sorely lacking. I think this is something that Sneb brings up a lot, and I think he's completely right to do so, is that it can be difficult for a player to understand if they're doing well or not, right? And can you get 100% quickness uptime? You know, that's a metric that you can use to determine like how well you're performing at your certain role, right?
Thank goodness for Raid Core launching soon.
Yeah. Will anyone get into your groups without Legendary Parse?
No, Legendary Parse or Kick.
Yeah. You know what, Nike? You would love WoW, because the game is literally exactly like that. You know, if you try and join a high-level Mythic Plus key and you haven't got good rating, you will not get in. You know, you will not make
That's
it.
good.
Yeah.
And coming to a strike near you as soon as Red Core launches. Get ready for it, Guild Wars 2.
You know, Raid Core is going to be interesting if it ever actually releases, right? Because I wonder I wonder if it will actually be adopted. For those who don't know, it's basically like a project being worked on by a community member that's basically like a logging site similar to FF14 logs or Warcraft logs that will essentially rate player performance on encounters. I'm just very curious if that's going to be adopted widely, and if it is, like how people are going to react to that. It's going to be interesting.
It doesn't matter if it's adopted widely because we already have the logs. Delta has 3 million logs.
Oh,
already.
so it's too late.
We already have your data. You can't opt out at this point.
Isn't that a bit questionable? You know, like with data protection.
I don't think it ties, I don't think it ties anything to you as a person. It's just video games, bro.
I don't know.
Wingman has your data too.
Yeah.
So
I have a very important question for Bloom.
Yeah.
Bloom, let's say hypothetically, someone that you were really good friends with. You know, there's a knock on your door.
Oh.
And you answer the door.
Yeah.
Or no, you go to the door, you like look out the window or whatever, and you see that they are being consumed by an anaconda. Do you open the door to save them?
Do I open the door to save them? Honestly, no, I'm staying inside.
Told you, an intelligent person.
Well, let me give you the right answer.
Yeah.
As a Florida man,
Okay.
I've been waiting for this opportunity my entire life. I can go in the closet, get my biggest fucking gun, and blast the fuck out of the snake, and I'm not going to get in trouble for it. In fact, I'll be a hero for it. And that is the correct answer. It throws some hot lead at this snake with extreme prejudice.
See, Nike would save me, but no one else would.
I mean, if you get caught in a crossfire, I'm not going to cry about it because at
Whoa.
least I'll have bagged the snake. Listen, accidents happen. Innocence, you know.
At least you tried, though. I mean,
Yeah, it's more about shooting the snake than it is saving you. You're looking for a free shoot in America. That's what they call it, a free shoot, when you have like this golden opportunity where you can go guns blazing.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'd have to run out with like a knife here in Australia. That's the most we have. So, you know.
That's a tough proposition against an anaconda.
Yeah.
It's a powerful snake. It's definitely a strong snake, that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Do we want to talk about the balance patch anymore? Or any more kind of like key points we think about the balance patch and the way the game is going?
I don't think so. Can we talk about the card game, or are we not allowed to mention
Oh,
that,
I mean,
or...
we can talk about the card game, yeah. It's kind of, yeah. Do you want to tell us about the card game?
So someone, I don't know how they found this, but there was like, NCSoft had like product like SKUs or whatever for a Guild Wars 2 collectible card game. And that got people like, what the hell? Because I can't think of a worse idea than a Guild Wars 2 collectible card game. It just it stinks of a cash grab, and not even a well thought out cash grab. But
no, because I don't think Guild Wars is a big enough IP to carry it above what the other trading card games are doing.
Like if I'm gonna like find like some like community to cash grab, I'm gonna find one that's bigger than a game that has like 20,000 concurrent players. Like that's what I would try to do. And I would make like a Call of Duty collectible card game and really milk these guys. And
I feel like they've also missed the boat, right? I don't want to say it, but like it feels like card games, don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with a good card game. You know, you got a variety of choices out there. You know, Riot has one, Blizzard obviously have Hearthstone. You know, you got, you know, Magic, right? All this kind of stuff. But I feel like card games are just very saturated right now. I'm not sure if there's much room, right, for another card game on the market. It's a very curious choice, I think, to go in this direction. Was it a physical
game, or was it like a digital collectible game?
It's going to be digital, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if it's digital, then you're absolutely correct. I think it's way oversaturated. I mean, there's a ton of games that have failed and shut down. No, the games that they just missed the boat by what felt like 8 months or something. So I mean, this is like years after the peak of card games, in my opinion.
I think it depends.
If it's physical, I don't know. I don't think it really. I mean, they're cards.
If it's physical, it's like at least you get a collector's item out of it, sort of. But like as a digital game, why wouldn't I just play Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering if it's like a digital game? Because those are like very well done. Like I just don't get it.
Yeah. And the one thing I can see is that maybe they make a card game that isn't insanely aggressively monetized. That's the opening I could see. Because my understanding is that, well, in fact, I'm pretty sure this is the case, right? People can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think card games are like mega expensive online. Like Hearthstone is expensive if you want to get the cards. I think it's not as bad as it used to be. I think there's a lot better like new player stuff in Hearthstone these days, but ouch, they are expensive, especially seeing as you're not even getting like a collectible, like a physical thing attached to it. So if they go that direction, then nobody from Guild Wars 2 is going to like it, right? Because, you know, Guild Wars 2 is a very cheap game relative to a lot of the competitors, whereas card games are often really aggressive with how they kind of like get money out of you. So maybe there's a niche if they lean into a very inexpensive and consumer-friendly card game, but other than that, I'm struggling to see it doing particularly well.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, my money's still on the idea that they're sort of somehow working on the Horizon MMO or whatever, and I'm gonna wait for those PlayStation showcases, and one day during the showcase you're gonna see ArenaNet, and I'm gonna pog out of my mind. It's gonna be cool.
Oh, they're definitely still working on that, but
it's very possible. It might not even necessarily be like one of their releases, but it will be like something that goes out there doing some work with another company. Because this happened with, Nike pointed this out to me that ManaWorks, this is correct, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong here, Nike, but ManaWorks did a lot of the New World PvE stuff, right? I think.
Still doing it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
Izzy posted 10 days ago that they're still working on contracts.
Yeah. And what's actually interesting about that is that it turned out really well, apparently. And New World's kind of on the up and up right now, actually, with Mike O'Brien and ManaWorks being potentially a little bit involved with that. So it could be a similar situation to that.
No one ever said Mike O'Brien and that crew was bad at making content. They just need to be told what content to actually do. So when you have like a game director who's like, please make me dungeons, they actually are good at making dungeons. But the fact is they have someone telling them, make me dungeons, and not like, make whatever you want. And then they're like, okay, well, we made a bird simulator. And then people are like, oh, I wasn't looking for bird simulator. Yeah. But when you can manage them, they can produce really good content.
Yeah, it's actually another ArenaNet face. Yeah, Kidder pointed this out to me on Discord the other day, actually. Yeah, Mike Z is actually working on Blue Protocol, which is another MMO project. I thought that game, I've been hearing about that game for ages, and I know people are very excited about that. So yeah, the ArenaNet devs they're about the place,
What's got Blue Protocol?
It's like an anime MMO.
It's weeb. Yeah, it's weeb stuff.
Okay.
Apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently it's got plenty of gacha systems in it, which I apparently does. And now my faith has been shaken. Now I'm upset.
Yeah, that's not what you like to see.
Weebs like it.
Yeah. I mean, weebs, they'll enjoy.
What company makes that? What studio is that?
It's a good question, actually.
Being published in US by Amazon, but
okay, because I saw on Twitter that Mike Z still lives in Seattle, so it would make sense for Amazon then.
Yeah. But I mean, look, regardless, I do think it is important for ArenaNet, just speaking from the the business, the corporate side, that they do actually look at investing right into other products as well. Ultimately, even other games. It's a bit scary, as a Guild Wars 2 player, I imagine, right, to think that that's happening. But ultimately, Guild Wars 2's got a shelf life on it, right? Like the game will eventually, probably have a bit of a sunset to it, right? That's just the nature of things. Guild Wars 1 is gone. Guild Wars 2, I think, has got, don't panic, everyone, I think at least 5 years, 5 to 10 years minimum, I would say, left in the game. But ultimately, yeah, like, ArenaNet, they want to make other things and come up with new ideas. Because the real scary thing is that Guild Wars 2 has been really sustained by the fact that no game has been able to do the things that Guild Wars 2 does better. But bear in mind, that's not a certainty. I admit it, I was actually a little bit worried for World versus World when New World came out. They completely moved away from World PvP in New World, so that was actually, whew, got away with it. But I know a lot of players were really looking at New World from World versus World because they're looking for that Realm v Realm experience. And eventually, that will probably happen with things like the combat system. And open world as well, you know, like the Riot MMO is a potential candidate for that. Could be very interesting. Riot Games are very hungry to be seen as like the Blizzard game, right? The Blizzard studio. Okay, they want to be that all-encompassing studio that makes every game, right? Like that's what they want. That's why they want to make this MMO title, and that's something that could potentially be a threat because it's not just will people stop playing the game. That's actually very unlikely, realistically. It's more like will the game be able to remain competitive with future products that can potentially do what it does but better, right? Like that is where you're really going to run into trouble, especially seeing as the Riot MMO is going to be free to play as well, which is, you know, that's of course kind of leaning into what Guild Wars 2 does. But yeah, that's basically my take on that.
Unironically, Guild Wars 2 will have a longer shelf life if they have another successful IP. In that, it will keep the servers on because, all right, let's say they're developing 2 major side projects currently. If they both are failures that don't ship, NCSoft is going to shut the studio down and close, and that's like they have to be successful. We've already seen what happened when projects failed last time. Heads rolled and like NCSoft stepped in and took over. If they fail again, NCSoft's going to be like, you guys just can't do it and get rid of the studio, and that will mean the game goes away too. So you want to, Guild Wars 2 will never, the servers will stay on forever as long as ArenaNet exists. But for ArenaNet to exist, they need other IP to launch and be successful.
ArenaNet has good designers, I think, and if you like Guild Wars, you're probably gonna like whatever they make next. So
I completely agree. Like, and also like having those games available there, it also does allow you to shift them around. Like Angels has brought this up in the chat. I think it's correct, right? Like a lot of WoW players play Diablo 4, right? Right, for example, and kind of like people shuffle around, so you can kind of have like multiple hype moments that keep people engaged with your products. So it's pretty big stuff. Yeah, that's the card game. Bird Simulator.
We gotta wrap it up.
Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up.
Bird Simulator card game would be sweet.
Yeah. One more bonus take here at the end that I forgot to mention during the balance discussion before we wrap up. I think a really good thing ArenaNet should look at is making traits that change what skills do. For example, a trait on NG that says, well, now your Electro Whirl is Electro Blast. It's a blast finisher now, so you can give quickness to your hammer too. Or a trait on Druid that gives you more boons on your staff or more boons on, say, your Warhorn, right? So you don't have to have this kind of like utility and profession mechanic spam in the same way. That is a really, really good way. And I also think they're really interesting. They're really cool. Like, oh, my abilities change, like Sandstorm Shroud or Lingering Curse or Glacial Blow, right? That stuff's really cool. And I think it actually allows ArenaNet to make these traits affect your build in the ways that they're looking to do. But yeah, that's my bonus take. Let's wrap it up. Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
I was thinking about, another 1 hour monologue about the bird game, but
yeah,
all right.
You were just going to really lean into that. Okay. So let's introduce here a little bit, guys. Thanks for watching, everyone, of course. And thank you to my wonderful host for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the stream. And of course, I hope the hosts also enjoyed the stream. And, it's now time for us to learn a little bit about them so you can follow them everywhere and stalk them all over the place. And first up, it is actually, the prophecy is complete, guys. Sneb and Emmy have combined into one person. Snemmy time has happened. Sneb stepping in at the last second to replace Emmy's putrid voice. That sounded like a roast, but actually no, her voice has just died. Sneb, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, first off, hope Emmy's feeling better. Been there with the whole, dead voice thing, if you recall. So
yeah,
hope things are getting better.
You were sick for like a month, dude. Like literally nearly 2 months, actually.
It was bad.
Yeah.
I'm better now. I'm healed. But anyway, I'm Sneb. I stream twitch.tv/Snebzor, and you can find my Discord at discord.gg/SkaneGang. we help people get into raid and strike groups. That's kind of our thing. We have over 100 statics now, which is kind of crazy to think about. And so if you're ever thinking, I'd really like to meet some people, make some friends, and play some of the harder content in Guild Wars 2, well, you've found your place. That's kind of me.
There you go. Next up, it's going to be Bloom. And, honestly, like what I really notice about Bloom, and Bloom can tell us about this, his YouTube channel very recently really switched up the content, right? It really changed a lot. Okay, completely moved away from Guild Wars 2. I think it was talking to me about Tesla or something like that. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Far out.
What's going on? What's going on?
Memory. So I'm Bloom on YouTube. I make Guild Wars 2 videos. I got hacked recently, taken over by some Tesla channel that was deleted all my videos, started uploading like Elon Musk live streams. But we're back. I got it all back, and I've been uploading videos. I literally just uploaded 2 days ago, just like a breakdown and my thoughts on all the secrets of the obscure stuff. It's basically just Guild Wars 2 videos there, sometimes other MMOs, but mostly Guild Wars stuff, and also some Guild Wars guides and that sort of thing if you're sort of new to Guild Wars. I upload when I feel like it, so that's me.
Very nice. Okay, so make sure to check out those links, of course. We also have Nike. There's a bike in the background. There's multiple bikes in the background, in fact. Tell us about your Zwift channel, the most competitive esport out there.
Yeah, my Twitch channel is mostly streaming Zwift, which is the most competitive esport and the only MMO with good PvP that's actually balanced. So I stream Tuesday, Thursdays, Zwift racing. And then you can check out my YouTube for video game related content, usually Guild Wars 2, some Guild Wars 1, and some Path of Exile stuff. And I upload whenever I have a project I feel passionate about. I will not upload filler content that will spam your feed with bullshit you don't want to watch. Whenever I upload, it's a fucking banger. Set your watch to it.
There it is. Okay, and make sure to follow all these gamers. There'll be links in the video description and, of course, in the chat right now and below the stream as well. So get in the mix and check it all out. And, of course, you're on this channel right now. You're on the stream. You might as well follow it. You might as well subscribe while you're here. Hit the follow button. Subscribe. Watch every other video. Watch all the filler videos. Watch the main videos. Watch the tea times. Go check out all the playlists. And, of course, stay tuned for more Guild Wars 2 and Secrets of the Obscure content. But anyway, that's going to be it for us today, gamers. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please make sure to let us know what you think in the comments. Okay, who is the most wrong person here? Who is the most right person?
Oh, no.
I don't know.
I'm gonna be
you're in trouble, actually. You're in big trouble.
I'm not reading these comments.
You are in trouble, actually. But anyway, that's it, gamers. Thanks for watching. Take it easy, and we will see you all next time. See ya.